or whatever, connecting the Black Sheep pub on North Capitol Street to all IHOP restaurants.
I think
in the
we made
city.
some illustrations of
The bill
that.
gives the estimated cost of the tram as probably not even that much. You are wasting my time and the time of this committee.
Excuse me, I gotta go.
What? Congressman, this committee is still in session. You can't...
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Welcome to Free Talk Live. Phones are open here. You can join the show. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And, of course, you can bring up anything you want. That is the point of the program. That is what we do here on Free Talk Live. You can also join us online anytime you want over at freetalklive.com, where many features await you, including our social media platform, which you can go to social.freetalklive.com to find. And that's where you can interact with other Free Talk Live listeners as well as some of the hosts of the show. And it's not some sort of big tech platform there run by evil mega corporations or anything like that. So head on over there to social.freetalklive.com. Tonight, there's some secession news that came across in the last 24 hours or so that definitely want to talk about because it's certainly a favorite topic of ours here on Free Talk Live. And in this case,
secession shirt on.
You do happen to have that on. Did you know we were going to talk about it tonight?
No.
Yeah, we didn't discuss anything in advance as far as what we're going to be talking about here. But with you in the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
Nobody.
And Bonnie.
So here's the big news from YouGov and Yahoo News. I mean, YouGov is a well-known pollster, so this is definitely a respectable polling firm. They surveyed, it looks like about 1,400, I think, people. I don't know, 1,672 U.S. adults. And this wasn't a survey that was exclusively about independence. There were a bunch of questions in here. They covered everything from their people's opinions about January 6th to abortion to gun rights, looking at whether or not people feel they're better off or worse off than their parents. And so this is a large survey. So it was actually, I don't know how the hell they got people to stay. Oh, I guess YouGov is an online surveyor, so they're not actually, I don't think they're actually calling people on the phone because this is a 67 question survey. Normally, if you get somebody calling your house, maybe you'll stay, if you're willing to talk to them, maybe you'll stay on for a handful of questions. If they're lucky, you might stay on for 8 or 10 questions, but I mean,
67.
If they're talking secession, I'll stay on as long as they want me.
Yeah, well, they wouldn't have said that in advance here. So if you had answered, if you'd been invited to answer this, it would have just been a few questions kind of popped into the middle of this. So I'm going to jump into that. Now, the mainstream media has been reporting this. I'll give you the RT headline. Not that they're mainstream, but there's other stories out there in the mainstream media. But RT points out
they're mainstream in Russia.
Indeed, they point out here that about 33% of Trump voters in so-called red states say they would personally fare better if their state became an independent country.
38?
About 33%. And that compares with 29% who say that they would be worse off after secession. Now, I looked at both what they call the top-line data and the tabs for this survey, and I could not find how they calculated that 33%. When you look at the actual question here, the question was, do you think that you personally would be better off or worse off if your state left the United States and became an independent country? They break it down by male and female and age and race, party identification, and 2020 vote. When you look at 2020 vote, it only shows 24% of Trump voters saying that they would be better off personally, with 38% saying they would be worse off. So I'm not sure how the media is getting the 33% out of this, but regardless, I don't want to quibble over the numbers too much. Let's look at let's zoom out here and look at the same question.
It's still pretty. I'm surprised by the self-awareness of people sufficiently confused to vote for Trump.
In this case, do you think that the question again? Do you think you personally would be better off or worse off if your state left the United States and became an independent country. So
Way better.
When we zoom out and we look at the full survey, because obviously that's pretty interesting to examine. 18% of Americans, so all of the people that took the survey, 18% say they would be better off. So right out the gate, here in 2022, we have not quite 1 out of 5 Americans who support the idea of independence. They think they would be better off if their state were an independent
Or they support
country.
the idea of self-sacrifice.
What do you mean by that?
They want to stay with the Union even though it will hurt them personally. They didn't actually say they
Support
wanted
secession.
to secede. Maybe they think that they would be worse off, but their favorite uncle would be better off or something.
All right. Actually,
So-
turns out the next question. They were asked that. So would you favor or oppose your state leaving the United States and becoming an independent country?
Okay.
So they did get asked that question, and not a big change. 17% said they would favor that.
Yes,
from
I saw that
33
1% coming.
From 33 to 17?
Well, no, I'm sorry if I confused you. So the mainstream media is saying that it was 33% of Trump. Let me see if I get this right.
But
Trump
everyone was
voters.
18.
Well,
Okay.
here's the thing. They say it's 33% of Trump voters in so-called red states say they would personally fare better, but I couldn't find that data in the breakdowns. So anyway, 17% I think is still pretty good, and only 58% opposed. So you've got 25% who are not sure as to whether or not they would favor or oppose their state leaving the United States and becoming an independent country. And that's a huge number of people that are on the fence on that question.
18 to 33 isn't that big of a deal, and it feels to me like they're purposely trying anything they can to make it seem like people who support secession are Trumpers.
That's definitely
only
what they're trying to do.
right-wingers.
Yeah. But, there were a lot of people who were very unhappy under Trump. And the reality is, given the level of hatred between the Democrats and Republicans, it's safe, I think, to tell most Democrats and Republicans that if you stay with the Union, you will live half your life under a slave master that you think is a monster.
Good chance of it.
And that doesn't sound very attractive to me. Whereas if the states broke up into red states, blue states, and New Hampshire, the green state,
or the gold state. depending on how you look at it.
Gold state. Yeah, we used to use green in the LP.
Oh, wow, that was a long time ago.
Green is much better because in the visible light spectrum, the lowest is infrared. We can't even see infrared, but visible is red. And then the highest is blue. That's why above that is ultraviolet. Well, violet.
Mm-hmm.
So we have red and blue already. Libertarian Party should be green. It's the coming together.
Well, it would
unity,
be the third
consciousness.
primary color, although I think they used kind of an olive drab green. It wasn't that attractive.
Yeah, don't do that.
I like gold better,
Yeah.
you know.
got a
Let
lot
the Green
going for it.
I don't
Party
like the
have
gold.
green.
They don't even use a very good
You don't
gold.
like gold?
I like real gold, but the Libertarian Party gold looks yellow.
It's hard to reproduce gold. Like as far as
Yeah.
the color of gold, it really is something that it's hard to actually print. It's something that you can really only experience
Exactly.
in real life. I want to go to Dave Ridley. He's on the line here, and he's definitely a fan of independence. I don't know if that's why you were calling tonight, Dave, but you might find this news to be interesting. Go ahead. What's on your mind? Uh-oh. Did we lose Dave? Dave Ridley going once.
Dave's not here.
Dave Ridley going twice. He's definitely unmuted, so maybe something's wrong with his line.
Dave, let me in. It's me.
We'll put him back on hold for a short bit. So again, looking at the numbers here, I feel like this is still early in the whole secession independence conversation. Yeah, I mean it got brought up in the 1800s and unfortunately didn't work out. But we're talking about peaceful secession here. We're not talking about firing on a federal fort or anything like that.
Which is one of the biggest mistakes the South made. I mean, apart from the really big mistake, which was having slavery in the first place.
Well, did you hear the theory that the fort firing was actually a false flag?
I haven't heard that, although I have, if I recall correctly, the story that I had heard was that it was actually cadets from the Citadel, which is a college-level military academy in South Carolina, that fired on the fort without orders.
Oh.
But it did could have been a false flag. I mean, I know they were doing false flags as early as 1905 because I think that was the sinking of the Maine. I'm not sure on that year, though.
The number here, if you want to join us, 603-283-6160. You got 17% of Americans saying they support their state leaving the United States and becoming an independent country, and 25% of the people are on the fence. They are not sure, and that means they're open to persuasion on this topic. There's more coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com. There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, and you can to join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Free Talk Live is, of course, brought to you by Bitcoin.com, and that is where you can go to learn some of the basics about cryptocurrency. What is it? What makes it so special? Why are people obsessed with it? Why has it been so successful? You can go to Bitcoin.com, click Get Started at the top of the page there, and that's where you'll find some introductory videos that will help you understand some of the basic concepts surrounding the idea of a decentralized currency like Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash. Get over to Bitcoin.com, click Get Started at the top of the page, because the price of a Bitcoin has gone down quite a bit from its ultimate high, but a lot of people only love to point out when the price goes down. But the fact is, the current price of Bitcoin BTC is still like 2020 levels. So it's still way higher than the supermajority of the history of the existence of Bitcoin. So
yeah, it had a huge outlier jump, and now it's back down to how it was when I first started hearing about cryptocurrency. So that's a good point.
Yeah, so head on over to Bitcoin.com, and that's where you can find Get Started at the top of the page. You also find all kinds of other great resources there. You can buy your first Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin there, or a fraction of it. You don't have to buy a whole. That's a lot people don't understand about crypto is they think, oh, God, I can't afford a whole Bitcoin. Well, can you afford 1% of one? You can get that much. You can get a fraction.
You afford $5 of it?
Yeah, you can get a fraction of a coin. So go there, learn the basics first before you get into it over at Bitcoin.com. Click Get Started. Let's go to your phone calls and thoughts here, and then we'll get a little bit further into this news about secession, where a major survey by Yahoo News and YouGov found that 17% of Americans overall favor their state leaving the United States and becoming an independent country. But what I would say more importantly, 25% of Americans are on the fence on this question. Let's go to the phones, though. We've got someone calling themselves ABC Eyewitness News. You're on Free Talk Live, calling from Massachusetts.
Hello, everyone. The story I would like to refer to is on YouTube. It's July 18th, 2022. It's BMW rolls over onto firefighter's leg during rescue in New York City. And
Wait, what rolled on something rolled on a firefighter's leg?
A car did, yes.
Oh, okay.
Can I just speak for a second? And I just have questions as well. How is it nighttime in New York City to ABC News 7? I'm on the East Coast. Ian, it's still light out where you are. I'm in Massachusetts. The sun has not set. At the end of the story, again, it's Eyewitness News, ABC 7, and NY. Please check out the video, people. And
I'm not sure what you're trying to say here,
nighttime.
Though. Something rolled onto somebody's leg?
But please check out the video, and what I'm asking is at the end of the video, right, she's reporting, and they're using another clip because it cannot be nighttime in New York City. And so they're editing in other stories. It's quite simple. They're editing in other stories. It's not nighttime in New York on July 18th, 2020.
So you're saying this was you're saying this video was posted today.
Yep.
And you're saying that
the
it
story
happened
came out today.
You're saying that it happened when? When did this actually occur?
Probably this afternoon.
Okay. Well,
and then at the
according
end of
to
that video,
this,
if you watch it,
I don't really feel like I need to because this video was posted 11 hours ago, so there's no chance that it happened this afternoon. So maybe you just missed some of the basic details of the story.
Well, then they're saying this, that like on the news, they're pretending that it happened today.
Maybe it was a typo.
Okay. Yeah, there's all kinds of mistakes that people can make.
These are the three things. I want to ask this question. Okay?
It says Sunday, by the way. Anyone who actually bothered to read the description of the video would find out that it happened Sunday.
Here's the other anomalies with it.
Okay.
If there's an accident, the first thing police do, or the police will do this, or firefighters, when you get on scene, you turn off the vehicle.
Uh-huh.
Right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, that's probably the case.
I don't think so. I mean, all the cops, all the FBI cars were on, sitting around here at my house when our house got raided.
Police leave their cars running all the time. I mean, they don't pay for their gas.
No, not a police car. If there's an accident at a scene, the police will be like, turn off the car.
Oh, the car that rolled? Sure. Or the car that got in an accident?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But
I guess
so. Maybe. They don't touch the car until they turn it off.
Yeah.
I never heard that's like the first
they
one.
also randomly shoot people dead for no reason, so that's hardly the worst or weirdest mistake they make if they didn't turn the car off.
That's what I'm saying, where they're trying to say, okay, my point will be just brief. They're missing their own protocol for safety.
Okay, well, it's not not unbelievable that government bureaucrats are going to cut corners. All right. See, a lot of these guys are lazy. They're shiftless. They don't care. They're just there to collect a paycheck or whatever. And I really don't feel like you've uncovered some sort of deep, dark conspiracy. I mean, there certainly are people in the media that are not trustworthy. You obviously should question everything that you see. But at the same time, I mean, the fact is you called in about this clip and you didn't even bother to do the most basic of research that I did in the amount of time that you were on the phone with us here, dude. I mean, I looked at the story and I determined when it happened according to what they said. You thought it was this afternoon. No, it was at least 11 hours ago.
That's what they're saying. They're saying it happened sooner
they're saying it happened on Sunday. It's right there in the description. So they're reporting on an event that happened yesterday, and they posted it today, and you were acting like it was some sort of a conspiracy. Thanks for the call. The number here is 603-283-6160. Look, there's plenty of scummy things out there that the mainstream media does, but I don't think that they're trying to scam you on a story about how basically the firefighters botched up a job when it came to getting, just for people that don't know, the video is of a car accident in New York City where one car is literally like halfway up onto another. So two of the wheels are on the pavement, and two of the wheels are literally up on top of a car. So that's how this car accident ended up. And so
that's not how you're supposed to park.
No. And so looks like the firefighters got into the car that was on top of the other car and were trying to like roll it off. So obviously they're not going to turn the thing off, and maybe they should have hooked it up to a tow truck and just let the tow driver pull it off. They didn't. They were literally just standing in the passenger side of the car from the ground into this other car, and the car starts moving, and it crushed some dude's leg. It crushed one of the firefighters' legs because their legs were out of the car as it was moving, and then it fell.
That sucks and all, but it's not
accidents happen.
It's not really newsworthy to me. The thing about this caller is everybody who's like a truther online needs to do perfect work making sure they have their facts right. If you care about truth and you're trying to expose all the lies of the media, it's going to take hard work. You're going to have to make sure you're absolutely right. And if you're just out there saying, I'm truth media, eyewitness media, and I know the truth, you're going to make everybody else looking for the truth and trying to expose the media as a bunch of liars look
I don't know if that's true. I think he just looks sloppy.
Well, everybody takes it that way. Like, oh, that's the idea I have of all truthers. And the thing is, I see this all the time. Like, I'm always like, hey, dude, truther poster, I really like what you're saying, but this is not true. And they get all mad and stuff like that. And I just think it's a dumb idea. If you put the word truth in your bio or whatever, you need to make sure you're doing perfect work.
Well, you're right, Bonnie. People do tend to think in groups. And so while we know it's just his mistake, they could definitely extrapolate out. More coming up. Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odysee, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off, now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odysee started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odysee. You can watch live or anytime on our Odysee channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odysee today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Kate Fisher. Parts of France have suffered temperatures of 40 Celsius on Monday as the heat wave hitting Europe showed no sign of easing. There are 15 regions in France with a red weather alert in place amid warnings of a, quote, heat apocalypse. From FSN's bureau in Paris, here's Ross Cullen.
The region around Bordeaux has been hit hardest, with the area of forest that's been burnt in wildfires now bigger in size than Paris. On Monday, animals in a zoo in the Bordeaux region were set to be moved to safety due to wildfires encroaching on the park. Temperatures in the French capital on Monday were scorching at 39 degrees Celsius, but there was no let-up as it's expected to be even hotter on Tuesday.
The UK's also had one of its hottest days on record with a high of 38.1 Celsius. The extreme heat is causing disruption to schools, airports and railways. Chris Jones reports from London.
Across the UK, the extreme heat, as weather officials have described it, is having a heavy impact. This week, a public safety warning was issued, warning people to take the heat seriously and not to travel where unnecessary. Rail bosses have also issued warnings. They say services will be running slower than usual or not at all. Gareth Dennis is a rail engineer and explains why.
With an air temperature of 40 degrees, that generally means that the rails will be 20 degrees hotter than that because they absorb a lot more of the sun's energy. 60-degree rail temperature is actually reaching beyond the safe limits that we can run trains normally, even on the newest kind of infrastructure.
Train operators say any cancellations made because of the heat haven't been an easy decision to make, but safety must come first.
A gunman who killed 17 people at his former high school has gone on trial in Florida, with jurors set to decide whether he faces the death penalty or life in prison. Nicholas Cruz pleaded guilty last year to 17 counts of first-degree murder over the 2018 Parkland shooting. The Swedish-born American pop artist Claes Odenberg has died. He was known for monumental sculptures of ordinary objects displayed in public spaces. Our US correspondent Rachel Silverman reports.
Visual artist Claes Oldenburg's lighthearted caricatures of everyday things include a giant cherry balanced on a spoon in Minneapolis, a monumental steel clothespin in Philadelphia, a 38-foot-tall flashlight in Las Vegas, and a giant bow and arrow set in front of the Bay Bridge in San Francisco called Cupid's Span. The 93-year-old son of a Swedish diplomat died from complications from a fall. Rachel Silverman, San Francisco.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live, the number 603-283-6160. You can bring up anything you want here. The number is 603-283-6160. We're talking about what is going to be likely the beginning of multiple news stories, hopefully, this week in regards to independence for people in U.S. states. There's been a YouGov Yahoo News survey that came out. It wasn't exclusively about secession, but there were maybe 3 or 4 questions in relation to that in here, and we're going over some of those numbers because they're interesting.
And just the fact that they added those questions in is pretty interesting. Like, that was important enough to them to add to these questions about, like, how is, American life?
Yeah, it does reflect to some extent, hopefully, the zeitgeist or the spirit of the times, the idea that quote-unquote national divorce is trending here and there over the last several months, if not the last year. And so yeah, you're right, Bonnie. Having the mainstream polling organizations, and YouGov Yahoo News is definitely a mainstream poll, acknowledging this by asking questions is definitely an indicator that maybe it's time for this conversation to get started. Maybe this conversation has already started. And at this point in time, here we are in, middle July of 2022. 17% of Americans say they would favor their state leaving the United States and becoming an independent country, but 25% said they're not sure. And to me, if you want to, as far as starting a movement is concerned, if you said to me, all right, well, you guys, you're going to start doing this New Hampshire exit thing. You've got 18% or 17% of New Hampshireites who are already supporting it right out the gate. I'd be like, that is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And then to tell me that 1 out of 4 people are saying they're not sure if it's a good idea to secede, well, that's a huge, window of opportunity to persuade people onto these ideas.
They're not like vehemently against it.
That's correct. Now, there are 58% who are against it. But again, what we're seeing happening here is a migration. There are people who are, as we speak, uprooting their lives, and they're moving to places that are more like them. We're seeing people who are, let's say, right-wingers moving out of places like California into places like Texas or Florida. We're seeing libertarians moving from across the United States here to New Hampshire. And I'll give you another example of this migration and why it's so important. Because we're just talking about the total number of people in the United States here. This was a nationwide survey. Yeah, and they did some demographic breakdowns or whatever. But just looking at the total numbers, what we're going to find out later this week, hopefully, is what percentage of people in New Hampshire are supportive of secession. Nice. Because there's been the very first ever that I'm aware of, New Hampshire-specific poll where they surveyed over 600 people in New Hampshire. And this is done. The statistics are being crunched, basically. I think they are already crunched, and essentially we're just waiting on the Foundation for New Hampshire Independence to release the numbers officially, because they're the ones who essentially hired the polling company to do this work. And so they have the numbers. They had a meeting about it, I think, today. And so they're working up a press release basically as we speak. So we know that 17% of all Americans are saying that they support secession for their state. But what happens when we look at Texas? What happens when we look at New Hampshire? What happens when we look at Hawaii? The poll that we're referring to, the one that hasn't yet come out, they did talk to Texans. They did talk to, I believe, Hawaiians and several other states in addition to New Hampshire. And so that's what we're waiting on seeing, because it's more interesting when you drill down.
Did they talk to Florida?
I believe Florida was one of them as well, yeah. So it's way more interesting when you actually talk to people in one specific geographic area about this idea.
Because you can't really get a good idea. I don't know. It gives you less of an idea of what's going on if you look at all of the United States. I mean,
because
we're not
so
one country. We're just not one country. I'm not connected to
and
the
we
lives
were never
of...
supposed to be one country.
No, I don't feel connected to the lives of people in Arizona at all. Like, what goes on there does not affect me.
Well, there's one person in Arizona I'm feeling kind of connected to.
Nice.
Yeah, that's true of my experience as well, Bonnie. When I moved here to New Hampshire from Florida, to me it was like a whole different place. It's entirely different here. Yeah, people speak kind of the same language, but even some of the words that people say up here, even though they're English, they're different. They're certainly pronounced differently.
I couldn't really understand my grandparents when I went back to Alabama for the first time in a few years. It was hard for me to understand my grandparents in Alabama.
Just because they're real Southern sounding?
Yes.
Wow. So this whole migration aspect of this is really important. The Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, just yesterday, I think, or early today, posted a link to CACR 32, which was the bill that came out earlier this year that all three of us went and testified on at the State House, that came out earlier this year, that would have, if it had been passed by the House and the Senate in New Hampshire by 60% majorities, would have ended up on the ballot and would have asked the people of New Hampshire, do you want to say goodbye to the United States? Should New Hampshire say peacefully, goodbye, we're leaving, you can't stop us, we're done? That was, essentially what this bill would have done. And so the bill's already been killed. I mean, it was tabled earlier this year in March or whenever it was. But they brought it back up and they posted it to their Twitter, meaning the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire posted just an image of the front page of the bill, and it's not a long bill. I don't think it was more than one page. They posted an image of the bill, and this thing got, I don't know how many retweets and comments, and people were, they didn't hear about it earlier this year, but now they're hearing about it, and people are saying things like, wow, I was considering moving to New Hampshire, and now I'm going to start looking at houses.
Yeah, I've seen more than one person say that was the thing that changed their mind, that it was time to move.
Really?
Yeah.
I saw that from somebody too, and I'm forgetting who it was. Somebody who has actually already moved. here to New Hampshire. It was that thing that set them on the course of getting up. Maybe it was one of the guys that came to Social Sundays recently. Anyway, so you've got people who are seeing what's already happening in New Hampshire, and this is just the beginnings of what is hopefully going to be a much larger movement. I mean, we just had a political action committee formed here on behalf of helping candidates that support secession, helping them get a little bit of more money into their pocket so they can campaign better, hopefully. That's brand new. That just started like 2 months ago. And so they're raising money, and they're already identifying candidates that they want to help out. That's new. The Foundation for New Hampshire Independence has been around for a decade, but they're really finally starting to get out there, and they're doing this poll work that we're going to see later on this week. So the more we can get it out there that there's good news in regards to secession, the more people that support independence are going to migrate here, and the stronger this movement will be. And as we've seen with the just the libertarians coming here, upsetting the apple cart and the status quo, and having Democrats go out last weekend, or not last, the weekend prior to last, protesting in Keene Central Square against Free Staters, against libertarian activists here in New Hampshire, shows that we are having a tremendous impact already. These people are already freaking out, and some of them are leaving New Hampshire. Some of them are just saying, you know what? This is bad. We can't handle all these freedom people being here. The freedom people are winning. We hate freedom. We're just going to move to New York.
And you know what? I'm glad that a lot of those people that were speaking at the Anti-Free Stater rally started saying, you know what? I decided I'm going to run for office for the first time, because more people need to hear about their horrible ideas. I mean, like, they keep using the word liberty for the first time and then talking about how they want to steal from people.
Oh, yeah. The Democrats are now positioning themselves as in favor of low property taxes. The Democrats in New Hampshire are now saying that it's libertarians that want to raise property taxes.
Where did they get that from? I've never heard that.
It
doesn't make any sense.
Ridiculous. They're just lying. Whatever it is that I don't know where they got that idea, but that's what they're propagating, and that's because they're desperate.
Well, I mean, the Democrats love to lie.
Yeah. Well, the Republicans do too, but they're desperate.
They do, but lately, and I would not have said this a few years ago, but lately the Democrats have just, along with CNN, have just had barely a passing acquaintance with the truth.
There's more coming up, and you can join us here, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Whether you want to weigh in on independence or whatever happens to be on your mind. More coming up. We'll talk about The Anarchist, too, this new documentary series coming up.
Don't worry about things you can't control. Isn't that what they always say? But it's about impossible to avoid worrying about what's going on these days. The government has used the war on guns, the war on drugs, and the war on terrorism to tear our Bill of Rights to shreds. But you can fight back. The 10th Amendment Center has proven it, racking up major victories. For example, when the U.S. government claimed authority in the NDAA to have the military kidnap and detain Americans without trial, the nullifiers got a law passed in California, declaring the state's refusal to ever participate in any such thing. Their latest project is offnow.org, nullifying the National Security Agency. They've already gotten model legislation introduced in California, Arizona, Oklahoma, Missouri, and Kansas, meant to limit the power of the NSA to spy on Americans in those states. We'd be fools to wait around for the U.S. Congress or courts to roll back Big Brother. Our best chance is nullification and interposition on the state level. Go to offnow.org, print out that model legislation, and get to work nullifying the NSA. The hero Edward Snowden has risked everything to give us this chance. Let's take it. Offnow.org.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. Phones are open, and you're invited if you want to join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. We're talking about state secession. And it's not just us talking about it. It is a YouGov Yahoo News poll where people were asked a few different questions in relation to this. And the more that we can see this poll, the more people are asked about this, the better off we're going to be, because it just sparks conversations, gets people thinking. And the fact is, secession can happen if enough people believe that it's possible. That's all it is. It's just all about belief. If people don't think it's possible, it'll never happen. If people think it's possible and they want it, most importantly, it will.
I say it's more about imagination. You don't have to believe it's going to happen. Belief is,
What's the difference?
Well, you can imagine that something will happen and see, oh, that's how it could work. But belief is like, I don't know, looking at something not with the facts, but with just blind faith.
Well, I'm not saying you believe that it will happen, but the believe that it could happen.
Okay.
If you don't think it can happen, it cannot happen. That is not in your paradigm. It's not in your experience. It will never become real. We're going to go to your phone calls and thoughts. So the number is 603-283-6160. Let's talk to Major Payne on the line in Michigan. Go ahead, Major.
Hey, Bonnie, you were just saying how the dumbass rats are fleeing for New York again.
Wait, was I?
I think I said something about New York.
Yeah, well, I call them the dumbass rats, the Democrats.
Okay, that's cute.
Anyway, it's just kind of interesting because a couple hundred years ago they were called Tories and they were heading in the opposite direction.
Things change.
From New York to, like, New Hampshire?
Into Canada.
Oh.
That's where the remainder of the British loyalists ended up scooting to.
Okay.
Okay, so this quote here comes from Benjamin Franklin right about the tale of that time. He says, "Those who give up their liberty for security deserve neither."
It's a classic quote.
Absolutely.
It's a good one.
All right, so I got a couple of juicy cop tidbits for you, fresh off the press.
Cop?
This one here,
a COP.
just happened in Grand Rapids last night, I think. Might have been Saturday night, but and this is one of them things they're going to bury right quick if they can, because they don't want it getting out.
Okay.
The bar was letting out, I guess, and the cops say somebody pointed a gun at them, and there's a whole crowd of people. They opened fire. 5 of the people are shot. I don't know if they're killed or not, but as near as I can call, that's what they define as a mass shooting.
Oh my God, hold on. So let me see how I'm following you here. There's a crowd of people. Cops believe someone in the crowd had a gun. They opened fire on a crowd of people. What was the crowd of people doing? Where was this?
I believe it was at bar closing.
Okay. Just people out in the streets.
Did they see a gun? Do they claim that they saw a gun, or just they got a report?
They claim somebody pointed a gun at them.
Wow.
It was a quick news blip, and I didn't hear anything about a firearm being found. The cops were the only ones that opened fire. There was no shell casing.
How many innocent people got hit?
Why do you shoot 5 people because one person has a gun?
You said it was 5 people that got hit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
That person has a gun. Let's shoot these 4 over here too. Like.
Well, apparently they haven't read the Second Amendment either, because you have a right to have a gun.
Well, that's true, but you don't have a right to point it at somebody if that's what happened. But we have no idea if that's what happened. They just started blasting people.
Well, so anyway, I just started blasting.
It's insane.
The other one's out of Uvalde, Texas. This just came out of the Texas House today.
Mm.
Evidently, remember where the school shooting there?
Yeah.
Okay, well, 60 minutes after the alarm had been sounded, there were 376 cops around and in that place.
I had heard it was
400. And
400.
that wasn't good enough odds for them to actually take the risk of going in. What kind of a numerical advantage do these weaklings demand?
376 cops versus one scrawny teenager.
And
with one gun.
And the morons on the net are saying, oh, well, that just proves how powerful the AR-15 is. The cops have AR-15s too.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And smoke bombs and flashbangs and, all kinds of toys.
And grenades and probably some fully automatic weapons laying around.
They sure as hell used a smoke bomb and a flashbang on this house, by the way. That's if you watch the video footage that I uploaded, you can see it over at freetalklive.com of the security cameras that they finally sent the footage back to us, amazingly, without deleting it, thankfully. But in the very beginning, the very first thing they did was they tossed a flashbang out and they tossed a smoke grenade out. So, I mean, they're happy to use it against us.
Let me give you another scenario. Let's say that had been 376 rednecks sitting out there listening to these kids getting murdered. Do you think that damn door wouldn't have been breached?
Oh, we already know that the parents were desperately trying to get in there. They needed the hundreds of cops to keep the parents away.
And really, they should be charging the cops as accessories to murder, because they provided security, not for the school, but for the shooter.
Yeah.
They're the only reason the shooter lived as long as he did, because if 10 parents had gotten into that room, he would have taken a couple of them out, but it's likely that they would have gotten a hold of him, and it's likely that he would have had a much more painful death.
Thank you, Major Payne, for the call tonight. I appreciate it. The number here is 603-283-6160. Did you guys see the images from the hallway where there was one cop?
The hand sanitizer guy?
There was that one.
I didn't see that. I just saw the one with the
all
Punisher.
I could think of is he's washing the blood off his hands.
Well, he hadn't gotten to it yet, but...
Well, no,
You mean in his
but
mind.
metaphorically, he's washing the blood of his inactivity off his hands.
You were referring to the Punisher one, though.
Yeah, I've only seen that one. The guy's standing there with like a smirk on his face, opening his phone. Or maybe he doesn't have a smirk. No, wait, I saw another one with a smirk. So that I saw the one with the guy. You can't really see his face. It's kind of from the back of his head, but he's checking his phone while kids are getting killed. And he has a Punisher background on his phone.
Did you know the rest of the story with that guy, allegedly?
No, I don't believe it. I just don't believe it. Why would that have not come out until now? People are saying just on Twitter, it's not like some kind of official report anywhere that I've found, that this guy, one of his kids, this guy's wife was supposedly a teacher in the school, and he was checking his phone because she was giving him updates on how much she was bleeding out and she was dying. He then tried to rush in there and get at her, and then they all of his other cop buddies held him down and took his gun away, so he literally couldn't, but he tried.
I hadn't heard that part of the story.
There was a cop who supposedly was tackled by the other cops, so to better defend the shooter.
I don't believe it. They all signed up for this.
You
Is
don't
what
believe
they do.
what?
That there was a cop that tried to do it, and then he got, and we just aren't hearing about it until now.
Well, they don't.
It's something I had heard before, that there was a cop who actually tried to go in, but that certainly doesn't make it any better for them, because again, when faced with the prospect of somebody stopping the shooter, what did they do? They defended the shooter.
Yeah. As far as the information, Bonnie, they don't release everything immediately. So, I mean, it's certainly possible that a report just came out this week or last week that revealed even more information, like this information about the 376. I heard it was 400.
Why hasn't this cop come out and said anything like, hey, I'm quitting because my wife died because people were holding me back. This is not okay. Like that woman did.
He's a coward.
Well, he's a coward. He didn't do any of that. He was checking his phone.
I agree with you. I don't think he did either.
Well, what did you hear? You said you heard something different.
The version of the story I heard, and again, this is all just online posts, so we don't know what the truth is, was that this dude's just standing there as his wife is being murdered.
Well, yeah, that's also what I heard, but...
Yeah, he's just on his phone as his wife is being murdered, and that's it.
And honestly, like, who's just, like, going to be texting while they're dying? I got shot, I'm bleeding out. Like, wouldn't you at least call, or if you're going to do anything, wouldn't you rather call? For another thing is... that guy just like shooting people in this one room, and he sees someone texting, but he's not like killed them again all the way dead.
I don't know. It's hard to really question what's going on in a place like that or in somebody's mind. I know some kids probably tried to play dead in that situation, and maybe
well, one of the things that the brilliant cops did is shouted into the kids, yell if you need help. So some of the kids yell. Cops ignored them, but of course the guy went over and shot the kids that yelled. So they got those ones killed.
Wow. If you want to join the show here, the number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And of course, the government gang is trying to make themselves look like, we're investigating this, and we found that protocols weren't followed correctly, and that this could have been differently if only blah, blah, blah. Well, look, we know this isn't like the first time the cops have acted like cowards in these situations. It goes all the way back to Columbine, where in the late 1990s, was it 98 or something like that, where literally a cop or more than one cop waited outside until the shooters killed themselves, and then they went inside.
Well, without the dead kids, how would they take our guns away? They need the excuse.
Yep, there's more coming up here. Hour 2's next. It's Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it! You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. Parts of Western Europe have hit temperatures of 40 degrees Celsius or 100 Fahrenheit as the heatwave hitting the continent shows no sign of easing. In France, 15 regions reached a red weather alert that's been in place amid warnings of a heat apocalypse. From FSN's bureau in Paris, here's Ross Cullen.
The region around Bordeaux has been hit hardest, with the area of forest that's been burnt in wildfires now bigger in size than Paris. On Monday, animals in a zoo in the Bordeaux region were set to be moved to safety due to wildfires encroaching on the park. Temperatures in the French capital on Monday were scorching at 39 degrees Celsius, but there was no let-up as it's expected to be even hotter on Tuesday. Ross Cullen, Paris.
The trial has begun in the United States for the deadliest mass shooting to ever reach the courtroom. Nicholas Cruz pleaded guilty to murdering 17 people in the Parkland High School shooting of 2018 and could face the death penalty, as FSN's Gabrielle Fami reports.
It's been 4.5 years since Cruz returned to his former high school to open fire. That he has admitted. This 4-month trial will focus only on sentencing, life in prison without parole, or the death penalty. The jury has a task no jury in this country has ever faced before. No American mass shooter who killed this many people has ever made it to trial. Cruz fled the scene after the rampage before he was caught by police. The trial began Monday with opening statements. A death sentence would have to be a unanimous verdict, but the jury could issue a different sentence for each of the 17 victims. Gabrielle Fami, New York.
In Ukraine, the President Volodymyr Zelensky has suspended 2 of his senior officials, the head of the spy agency and the prosecutor general. More than 650 cases of treason have so far been brought against individuals accused of working with Russia. Business and US stocks fell on Monday on reports that Apple intends to slow both spending and hiring. Meanwhile, traders were gearing up for a busy week of corporate earnings. FSN's William Denslow reports from New York.
US stocks lost momentum during Monday's trading session, following a Bloomberg report suggesting Apple will slow spending on certain teams and ease hiring next year. After a promising start to the day, the Dow closed down 0.7%. While the S&P and Nasdaq both fell 0.8%, Apple closed down around 2%. Losses on Wall Street came despite the release of some better-than-expected earnings results from Goldman Sachs. The bank closed up 2.5% after posting strong earnings and revenue figures. It's set to be a busy week for company earnings, with the likes of Tesla, Netflix and Johnson & Johnson all slated to report quarterly numbers. William Denslow, New York.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today at the announcement by Microsoft founder Bill Gates that his ambition in life is now no longer to remain on the list of the world's wealthiest people. It's been over a decade now since he first pledged that he would give his riches away, but he's still the world's 4th wealthiest person, and over that decade, his personal fortune has more than doubled. Last week, he announced plans to make a $20 billion donation to his philanthropic fund, and he says the foundation is going to start spending his money more quickly, aiming to give away $9 billion each year by 2026. Stephanie Brobby is a former private wealth lawyer who created the Good Ancestor movement and advises people who, like Bill Gates, want to offload their cash.
They are extremely wealthy people who are concerned about spiraling inequality. They're concerned about the climate emergency that we're in and the fact that we have more food banks than McDonald's in the UK, despite being the 5th most advanced economy in the UK. So the people that I work with are extremely rich, but they feel deeply uncomfortable actually about the level of wealth that they have, about, in some cases, the way that wealth was created.
But she says lots more work needs to be done to encourage others who have been almost as lucky as Bill Gates to follow his path. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news again. Parts of Western Europe have hit temperatures of 40 degrees Celsius or 100 Fahrenheit as the heatwave hitting the continent shows no signs of easing. In the United States, the trial has begun of the 2018 Parkland High School shooting, the deadliest mass shooting to ever face trial. And in business, US stocks fell on Monday on reports that Apple intends to slow both spending and hiring. From Feature Story News, Nick Harper reporting.
From the creation of the Bible in 1912 by a struggling Baltimore book salesman to the day in 1493 when Christopher Columbus and his crew looked back on their voyage and realized what they truly discovered was themselves. The Onion looks back at This Week in History. On July 21st, 1969, astronaut Neil Armstrong became the first human to set foot on the surface of the moon. The moon, for Christ's sake.
This is Tranquility Base. The Eagle has landed. Jesus H. Christ, Houston. We're on the moon. Over.
Roger, Tranquility. We copy that. We cannot believe you are on the moon.
I'm descending the ladder. Just one more step and I'm wholly living. I absolutely am standing on the surface of the moon. Jesus H. Christ in a chicken basket.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. We're kicking off the second hour of the program. You can bring up what you want. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Lots, of course, in the news to talk about, but you're not going to hear most shows discussing secession like we do here on Free Talk Live, because, you know what, in my opinion, it's probably one of the most important issues of our time, is getting out from underneath the boot of the federal government. And just to be clear, I would have said the exact same thing under Trump as I'm saying now under Biden. They both had a boot on peaceful people's heads, and it's time for that to change. And the only way it's going to change is not by voting harder, not by voting for different people and sending them to D.C., even if they've got good intentions. The only way that's going to change is if we just say goodbye and leave the United States.
And it's too paradigm shifting for most other shows to want to bring it up because, well, we don't benefit like the mainstream media does for holding up the empire. Upholding, the union and the empire and the federal government.
Yeah, the mainstream media loves having wars to talk about. I mean, that just gets more attention. It gets more people to hold through commercial breaks and that sort of thing.
The mainstream media is also on the CIA payroll and has been for years.
Absolutely.
I even meant it like that. Yeah, I think they just get direct checks to say whatever the empire wants them to say.
I should add that I'm Ian.
I'm nobody.
And this is Bonnie.
So there's another story here about secession from our friends over at the Texas Nationalist Movement. Bonnie, you and I had the pleasure of meeting Daniel Miller from TNM. He was up here in New Hampshire visiting.
He was great.
He's a real entertaining character. During the Liberty Forum, which is the Free State Project's yearly convention that they hold during the wintertime, and he had come up to attend a secession panel. And that panel video is online, by the way. I think you can find it at the Free Keen Odyssey, because I think we put a version of it up there. But anyway, he spoke about it, and he's been supporting Texas independence since the mid-1990s, so almost 3 decades, basically, of his life. So he's got a lot of experience at this. And they dug through this poll that I teased earlier tonight. I said that this week there's going to be numbers coming out about New Hampshire and Texas and Florida. Well, turns out the numbers are already out for Texas. So actually the only numbers that haven't been released yet are New Hampshire's numbers. And they dug through this and they found, of course,
Wait, I'm sorry, the ones that the New Hampshire, the independent New Hampshire, the Foundation for New Hampshire Independence did, all of those are already out?
All except for New Hampshire.
Oh, okay.
So the Texas numbers are out. The Hawaii numbers are out. The Florida numbers are out. I just haven't had a chance to look at any of that.
Oh, we should do that.
But I have been looking at the Texas ones to some extent. Although, I just saw this just not too long before the show started, so I haven't really had a chance to dig through it. But the folks over at the Texas Nationalist Movement at their website, tnm.me, say this about it. Bombshell poll, 66% of Texas voters want Texit.
Wow.
According to a newly released poll by Survey USA, a top-rated pollster, 66% of likely Texas voters want Texas to withdraw from the Union and become an independent country.
Wow.
Wow.
Now, go ahead.
You know, the only sad thing about that is Texas is probably the one state in the union that would institute the death penalty for smoking weed.
Yeah, they unfortunately, if you look at there's the Freedom in the 50 States study that they do every, I think it's year or every 2 years. Anyway, Texas is ranked at number 49 for personal freedoms.
Well, I mean, it's not that sad because if you're into actual liberty, you still have the opportunity to move where you are now and get out of there. But if you're fine with not smoking weed and you're fine with that, you know, you should have the right to leave the union because they're doing much worse things.
Now, according to Daniel Miller, because what I do when I look at this is I want to make sure that what they're saying is true, right? Like, that's a pretty big number. 66% is a pretty big claim. All right, well, I want to look at the actual study. I want to look at the numbers for myself and try to find that 66%. I couldn't find it when I looked at it. So he actually responded because he's in one of our New Hampshire Exit chat rooms, and he said it's likely voters. So what I was looking at, I was looking in the wrong place. But the number of the likely voters number isn't in the data that Survey USA released publicly. So maybe I think Daniel might have something behind the scenes that he's looking at. But
Survey USA did the survey for Foundation for New Hampshire Independence?
Correct. Okay. And they surveyed 8 different states. Texas was one of them. However, right here, question number 2 on this survey was the following. This survey is about possible responses to the political problems some may see in the United States and the solutions some people have proposed. We're specifically interested in Texas' attitudes towards the idea of making the U.S. into 2 or more separate countries. Would you support Texas becoming an independent country along with other conservative states or not? And the answers were definitely yes, yes, no, definitely no, and that's it. So when you look at these numbers, and again, I don't see the likely voters category that he was referring to, but even when you look at all of the respondents to this poll, it's 32% saying definitely yes and 28% saying yes. That's 60% of every single person who responded to this poll in Texas. It's over 600 respondents. 60% of them said they support Texas becoming an independent country along with other conservative states.
Wow.
That's a beautiful thing. Because the thing is, once one state goes, it
domino
changes
effect.
Everything.
Yeah, a bunch of others are going to feel comfortable leaving because the biggest objection that we almost always hear from people about secession is, well, the military is going to roll in tanks, or there's going to be some sort of military oppression.
Which it's like staying with your husband because you think he's going to kill you if you leave. Well, if you think your husband's going to kill you if you leave, you really should not be with that person.
Indeed,
because he's a psychopath.
Time to go, no matter what the risks are. Because you know what's going to happen if you stay home.
If enough states secede, they won't be able to roll in tanks everywhere.
No, and they sure as hell aren't going to roll in tanks into Texas. I mean, that place is humongous and also well-armed. Of course, New Hampshire's well-armed, just not as large. So when you actually look at the breakdown by political party, you got 33% of Republicans saying definitely yes, Texas should become an independent country with other conservative states. 40% of Republicans saying yes, so that's 73% of Republicans. And even the Democrats with a fair amount of support, with 36% saying definitely yes and 18% saying yes. So you're talking about more than 50% of Democrats as well.
Wow.
Saying Texas should become an independent country along with other conservative states. Wouldn't expect that from Democrats, but there it is.
Well, I mean, I've talked to a lot of conservatives who are enthusiastic about the idea of California seceding. That doesn't mean they're going to live there after it happens, but I mean, God, if we got rid of the tyrants in California, New York, and Massachusetts, it would change the whole country.
Let's see. There's other questions. Basically, this whole survey is related to secession. That's one of the things that makes this an interesting survey is unlike the YouGov poll that we started the show with tonight, where it's a 67-question survey and 3 of them have to do with secession and independence. A lot of this, if not all of it, has to do with that. And so there is another question in here that I wanted to highlight, and I'll pull that up here in just a moment. But it does ask specifically, what would you prefer Texas do? Join a country formed only from states that lean Republican in the South, which is sort of what they were referring to earlier, the Heartland and a part of the West, or join a new country formed only from Southern states, or become completely independent from other states except for economic trade agreements and military alliances, or remain in the United States. So it gives people a lot of options in that particular case.
What was number 1?
Amongst all of the respondents, the number 1 option was to, of course, remain part of the United States at 47%. But 21% said become completely independent. 11% said go with the Republicans' Southern Heartland thing that they were talking about. And 9% a new country only from Southern states. There's more coming up here in moments. You can join us on Free Talk Live.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com. There are basically 2 types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correia, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live, and the phones are open here. You can join us. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We've been sharing with you some interesting numbers, especially out of Texas, with a new survey that's focusing exclusively on the idea of independence, secession. They surveyed about 625 adults just a few weeks ago, late June, I think it was. Looks like it, yeah, the 21st through the 30th. They talked to 625 of them, and was it online? Okay, yeah, it was online. So an online poll. So they didn't call people on their phones, and this is supposedly now. To be fair, I had not heard of Survey USA, but purportedly they are fairly reputable. And the numbers here are very, very interesting. Now, it changes dramatically, of course, based on the question being asked. But as the folks over at TNM.me, that's the Texas Nationalist Movement, are highlighting, 66% of likely Texas voters want Texas to withdraw from the United States and become an independent country, with a full-on 60% of them, so 66% of likely voters, but just normal Texans, including non-voters, 60% of them say, yeah, let's leave and become an independent country along with other conservative states. They also break it down here, pointing out the poll was conducted in 8 states. And here's the list of them. So Texas, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, South Carolina, Florida, New Hampshire, and Hawaii. So basically the whole South plus New Hampshire and Hawaii. And of course, Hawaii is known for having an independence movement there. It is the newest, I believe.
Wait, they didn't do California? Sorry.
Surprisingly, no.
Okay.
They didn't. They probably should have, but you know, I think the situation with this poll was somebody had a lot of money they were willing to put towards it, and they had the money, so they picked the states. But I'm glad they included New Hampshire in this. We have not gotten the New Hampshire numbers yet. That's the one state that Survey USA has yet to release, and I believe that those are embargoed pending the Foundation for New Hampshire Independence releasing them first. So I think what happens is the foundation gets the chance to kind of break the news, and then Survey USA reveals all of the numbers. Because obviously organizations are going to cherry pick, right? Like there is something like 24 questions in this survey, and so clearly, you know, some of them have better results than others. And as I was saying just a few moments ago, when they ask a much more specific question, so the first question that we were just looking at was, would you support Texas peacefully becoming an independent country along with other conservative states? And that's what they got 60% of the population of Texas to say yes to, which is amazing. There's no doubt about that. And then they broke it down a little bit further with this other question, asking people if Texas should join a country formed only from states that lean Republican in the South, the heartland and part of the West, join a new country formed only from southern states, become completely independent from other states except for economic trade agreements and military alliances, or remain part of the United States. And that's where you then get 47% saying remain part of the U.S., 21% saying become completely independent, 9% say form a new country only from the southern states, and 11% say join the Republican-leaning Southern Heartland kind of union concept. But even so, that's still, let's see, 21 and 9, 30, 41%. That's 41. So 41% down from 60, saying earlier they wanted to join the Union of States.
Wait, how's it 41% if only 49%?
So 41% would be 21% saying become completely independent, 9% saying join a new country from southern states, so that's 30 there, and then plus 11, so 41%. The 11% say join the Republican-leaning states.
Okay, but
I think.
That only makes it 90%, with the 49% saying stay in.
Okay, so 47% said remain part of the U.S., and 13% said they're not sure.
Oh, not sure.
In that case. So, again, very, very interesting poll. Next question on it was, would you support or oppose the idea of Texas holding a vote to find out whether voters want Texas to peacefully separate from the United States? And in that case, you've got 27% and 23% saying they either strongly support or somewhat support that.
Going back to the last
50%.
question, I mean, you can assume that a chunk of the not sure means not sure which one it should break into. They still think it should break up because otherwise we might be able to get 40 or 60% from the question before.
Well, they may also be not sure whether or not they want to remain part of the U.S., because that was the other option in that question. But yeah, you're right, Bonnie. It's important to focus on the not sure options here because those are people that are persuadable. And in the case of asking the Texans whether or not they want people to be able to vote on this question, 50% of them said they support that idea. Only 30% said they somewhat or strongly oppose, and again, a large chunk with 21% saying they weren't sure whether Texans should be able to vote on this question. So, again, I think this is all very, very interesting, and it's a great starting point. I know the folks over at the Foundation for New Hampshire Independence, they would like to continue doing these polls. So maybe every year or every 2 years to keep hitting the same, not the exact same people, obviously, but, a segment of population from each of these states and see if this changes over time. See if we can start persuading people to go in a particular direction.
And if this is the first temperature check, I'd say we're heading towards a pretty good trend of people wanting to secede from the Union.
Yeah, it's a first. I mean, it's not per se the first. There have been others that have been asked in the last couple of years, but this is the first one that's really focused on secession. Usually, independence or secession is just kind of included as a part of a larger survey, but this one, it's literally every single question. And I feel like I should share more of it, but honestly, I haven't even had a chance to digest it. Plus, it'll be more interesting once we get the New Hampshire numbers in, which could be as soon as tomorrow. I mean, they might even put a press release out tonight because I know that Texas did it first. I haven't looked at Florida, I haven't looked at Hawaii, but these are great numbers, and so kudos to the people of Texas. I don't care who it is that goes first. Whether it's...
I'd like to be first.
Yeah, it would be nice. It would be nice. But if Texas, manages to pull it off, then that's great. If California can do it, that's fantastic. Obviously, those are big states, so it's nice to see them go. But, the reason we should be first is because, well, we've got the best movement. We've got the migration of people moving here for liberty. New Hampshire's the only state of all of the secessionists, pro-secession supporting states that has actually had a legislative move in that direction, with CACR 32 earlier this year. Even though it didn't pass, it was filed, and there was a public hearing, which was 3 hours long. You can see the whole thing on the Free Keene Odyssey channel. Just go to video.freekeene.com, and you can watch all of us, the three of us, and dozens of other speakers, I think, probably a couple dozen speakers at least, talk about the idea of secession, talk about why it needs to happen here.
And nobody except the politicians was opposed to it.
Isn't there one guy? I think there was one guy.
And then somebody said that he got convinced otherwise whenever afterwards, like people talked to him. It was a black guy. I'd never seen him before. He was from New Hampshire.
I saw him show up at the Democrats event a couple weeks ago. He was there for a little bit.
Which Democrat event?
The ones that were protesting in Keene.
Oh, I never saw him.
Yeah, he was there. The number here is 603-283-6160. Bonnie, you've got a story we said we were going to do last week, and we never did. It's about federal government mandating rules, potentially, about smartphone chargers. And we'll get into that coming up here in moments. It is Free Talk Live.
You know how annoying it is when someone keeps stopping mid-sentence as though he or she were asking you a series of questions? Avoid doing that. It sounds unnervingly tentative, and it imposes upon the listener to help you complete the thought. And if you're a job seeker, this alone could be a deal killer. An effective communicator sounds more confident. Complete the thought. Avoid making the listener impatient. With money and attention so scarce now, effective communication skills have never been more important. Cutting through the clutter rather than blending into the blah, blah, blah will help you connect better no matter what the conversation. For more tips, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook. survivalspeech.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. Parts of Western Europe have hit temperatures of 40 degrees Celsius or 100 Fahrenheit as the heatwave hitting the continent shows no sign of easing. In France, 15 regions reached a red weather alert that's been in place amid warnings of a heat apocalypse. From FSN's bureau in Paris, here's Ross Cullen.
The region around Bordeaux has been hit hardest, with the area of forest that's been burnt in wildfires now bigger in size than Paris. On Monday, animals in a zoo in the Bordeaux region were set to be moved to safety due to wildfires encroaching on the park. Temperatures in the French capital on Monday were scorching at 39 degrees Celsius, but there was no let-up as it's expected to be even hotter on Tuesday. Ross Cullen, Paris.
The trial has begun in the United States for the deadliest mass shooting to ever reach the courtroom. Nicholas Cruz pleaded guilty to murdering 17 people in the Parkland High School shooting of 2018 and could face the death penalty, as FSN's Gabrielle Fami reports.
It's been 4.5 years since Cruz returned to his former high school to open fire. That he has admitted. This 4-month trial will focus only on sentencing, life in prison without parole, or the death penalty. The jury has a task no jury in this country has ever faced before. No American mass shooter who killed this many people has ever made it to trial. Cruz fled the scene after the rampage before he was caught by police. The trial began Monday with opening statements. A death sentence would have to be a unanimous verdict, but the jury could issue a different sentence for each of the 17 victims. Gabrielle Fami, New York.
In Ukraine, the President Volodymyr Zelensky has suspended 2 of his senior officials, the head of the spy agency and the prosecutor general. More than 650 cases of treason have so far been brought against individuals accused of working with Russia. Business and US stocks fell on Monday on reports that Apple intends to slow both spending and hiring. Meanwhile, traders were gearing up for a busy week of corporate earnings. FSN's William Denslow reports from New York.
US stocks lost momentum during Monday's trading session, following a Bloomberg report suggesting Apple will slow spending on certain teams and ease hiring next year. After a promising start to the day, the Dow closed down 0.7%. While the S&P and Nasdaq both fell 0.8%, Apple closed down around 2%. Losses on Wall Street came despite the release of some better-than-expected earnings results from Goldman Sachs. The bank closed up 2.5% after posting strong earnings and revenue figures. It's set to be a busy week for company earnings, with the likes of Tesla, Netflix and Johnson & Johnson all slated to report quarterly numbers. William Denslow, New York.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live, and you can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's Ian.
Nobody.
And Bonnie.
Phones are open here. You can take control of the airwaves, and you can also join our co-host, Mark Edge, at the upcoming Liberty in Our Lifetime conference put on by the Free Cities Foundation. It's happening in beautiful Prague from October 21st through the 23rd. You can learn more about it over at lifetimeliberty.com and grab tickets for 20% off using our discount code, which is FTL20. That's FTL like Free Talk Live, and the number is 20. And then go to Prague, October 21st through the 23rd. Well, they'll be showcasing autonomous cities and intentional communities that are springing up around the world, offering opportunities for settlers to live freer lives. The conference theme is Parallel Structures for Progress. They're exploring physical developments and parallel structures in education and finance that offer alternatives for people looking for better ways to learn, educate their children, and invest in their future. It's Free Private Cities Conference called Liberty in Your Lifetime. You can go to lifetimeliberty.com, and again, code FTL20 will get you 20% off your tickets. Again, it's Prague, October 21st through the 23rd. You can follow them on Twitter at LibertyIOL. So, Bonnie, you've been wanting to talk about this smartphone story with mandates potentially coming down on chargers. What's going on?
I first saw a tweet by Elizabeth Warren where she posted this exact article, and she said, consumers need to have only one smartphone charging option to simplify things, because otherwise it's just I'm paraphrasing, because otherwise it's an added cost to the consumer. And I was just like, oh God, it sounds so stupid. So,
well, there's no one I look to when it comes to tech than Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah, dinosaur. This from USA Today. Lawmakers push for universal chargers for smartphones, mobile devices. A trio of U.S. senators is urging support for a universal charging standard for smartphones and mobile devices after the European Union recently agreed on new rules. Oh,
well, the European Union did it, so we should do it too, is what they're saying.
Oh, the European Union power grabbed, so the federal government should do it too.
Mm-hmm.
In a letter sent Thursday to Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo, Senators Edward J. Markey and Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts,
both of them of Massachusetts. Lovely.
And Bernie Sanders of Vermont, as they pressed
This is why we can't have a New England union, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice if we could get Massachusetts to move farther away, but they probably won't do it.
God, these people.
As those three pressed for a plan to tackle the lack of a universal charger, tackle that issue. It's a big issue that needs to be tackled. Like, what?
Well, Bonnie, you have an iPhone.
Tackled like a parent trying to save its child.
And so I bought an iPhone charger.
You have an iPhone, and the Apple devices tend to be proprietary. The Apple, for as long as I can ever remember, with their Macintosh products and now their iPhone products and such, they're very proprietary. And what that means is
they were great back in the day with the Apple II. The Apple II,
that was the peak.
That was the peak of Apple technology. You could open it up. You didn't even need a screwdriver. The lid just snapped. It was made to be easily opened.
Yeah, they changed that stuff, huh?
You know, it was well published. Different manufacturers made boards that you could slip right into it.
Wow.
It was a little arcane. You rebooted the machine by typing PR #6. But
amazing, you remember that detail.
Wow,
that's awesome. I think when I was in elementary school, they had us on the Apple IIe. I remember using the
that was and that was just as good. The Apple IIe, the Apple IIc, but
yeah, they had
I
color
was
monitors.
So disappointed when I bought one of the first, or my parents bought me one of the first Macintoshes to roll off the line with 128K of RAM and a 400K flopless disk drive. And I went to open it up, see what was going on in there, because I'd never seen anything like it, and I couldn't figure out how to open it up. I didn't see how to do it, so I went back to the store and I was like, how do I open?
What
the
model
case?
was this that you couldn't open?
This was the original Macintosh Classic.
Oh, the first
first Macintosh.
This was what, late 80s?
Yeah, probably was. So I go back to the store and I'm like, computer's cool. I can't figure out how to open it up. They said, oh, you need a special tool for that. I was like, well, how much is that? Oh, we can't sell that to you.
Yeah.
I was like, what do you mean you can't sell it to me? I bought this thing to learn about computers. You're telling me I can't open it? Yeah, I can't see what's inside. And I've never bought another Macintosh
ever again
since. Yeah. I've never bought any Apple product since then. And,
I feel the same way. And not just about that. I remember in the 1990s when I was a teenager, because you're about 10 years older than me. So I was a teenager in the 90s and was starting to get into computer repair and things like that. I mean, my dad had always been into computers. And
can you do that as a job, computer repair?
Yeah, of course. However, unless you were a licensed repair technician with Apple, you cannot work on their products, and that's also true with, as I understand it, with other companies. So I don't remember if it was Compaq, COMPAQ. They used to make computers. I think they
made IBM compatibles. They were a little funky on. They had some non-standard stuff, but they weren't too bad.
Yeah, I remember there being companies, I don't know if it was them or Dell or who it was, but they had their cases were also kind of locked down to some extent. Like you would need
definitely wasn't Dell.
Okay, that might have been Compaq. But I remember they had maybe it wouldn't have been impossible, but they were using Torx wrench screwdrivers, and they were other proprietary looking screws that they had where the average person wouldn't necessarily have what they needed to open up their computers because they had them locked in. It probably wasn't as bad as Mac, but there were definitely PCs that were trying that same crap with we're going to lock things down and make it so only our technicians can do things. But the thing is, what we don't need is government to solve this problem. That's what these senators are saying is, we don't like that people they can't charge their iPhones.
I mean, do they think people have
Android.
$15? It's just weird. It's not some kind of big issue. I've heard anybody, and I've been poor, and I've heard, working class people talk a lot. I've hung out with a lot of them. I've never heard them be like, I got this phone, but man, I really wish the government gave out, iPhone chargers because I can't afford a charger.
Well, wait a minute. Is that what they're saying, or are they
This is what they say exactly. They're planning to those three are pressing for a plan to tackle the lack of a universal charger, which creates a financial burden for consumers and creates more electronic waste.
Well, they're not talking about giving away chargers.
Yeah, no, that's not what I meant.
They're talking about having a one-size-fits-all charger so you can charge your iPhone on the same cable that I charge my Android phone.
And the thing is, I mean, it's madness on its face because different power supplies have different requirements, not only for the simple things, the voltage and wattage, but they allow different variances. They allow different amounts of noise on the input. You can't just they're going to have to make these devices more complex if they have to take generic.
More expensive?
They may well end up more expensive.
Sounds like something that the government would do.
Do they get into this in the story as far as what exactly they're proposing to do? Because it sounds to me like they just want to impose USB on Apple. Because that's the thing. There already is a standard. It's called USB. I mean, that is an industry set of standards the computer industry came together on, and Apple just said, nah, we're going to do our own thing when it comes to charger cables. And they should be free to do that and let the market decide whether or not that's worth dealing with.
Because they might come up with something better.
They might. There's more coming up here, and we'll get into more of the story, and you can join us here at 603-283-6160 on Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live.
They believe, I think, that government can be good as long as you just elect the right people, which, of course, is nonsense. Government can never be good because it's an agency of coercive force. It doesn't matter who's running it. It doesn't matter what the goals of the organization are. As long as it's funded through coercion, as long as it's funded through threats of violence, then nothing it can do is ever moral or justified. They understand the system and they want to work inside it to change it. So, therefore, in order to have their hunger strike that they'd planned, which I thought was a great idea, they went to the government, and what they do?
Ask for a permit?
They asked for a permit. They asked for a permit. It was already over at that point, right? Whenever you ask permission from the government, you might as well expect them to say no. No!
You know what? It sounds like government has this non-cooperation thing down to a science.
Yeah, right?
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Hey, you are going to love the movie Victimless Crime Spree. It's hilarious, heartwarming, and carries a ton of inspiring freedom messages. Feeling down about the lack of liberty in your life? You need to put on this film with some friends and have a good laugh. It's a true story about me and my friends in New Hampshire living free, singing, dancing, and getting arrested. Of course, it's all on video, and the bad guys, the cops, judges, bailiffs, and sheriffs, they all play their part like it's out of a movie or something. You would think we scripted the whole thing, but it's real life. Go ahead and have a watch, and if it's been a while, have another look. I guarantee you'll notice things now that you didn't notice before. And the best part is that you're going to walk away feeling a renewed sense of your own power. You are the master of your destiny, and you will be free in your lifetime. Victimless Crime Spree.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. The phones are open and you can join us here at 603-283-6160. Do we need the government to decide what phone chargers should look like? Because that's what they're talking about, apparently. And Bonnie's got more to the story. We'll maybe get some quotes from these know-it-alls who probably couldn't tell the difference between an iPhone and an Android phone if you put them down in front of them. These are people who are in their 70s and 80s. Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and some other guy from Massachusetts, apparently. So Vermont and Massachusetts, two of the most hardcore statist places on the planet. Certainly Mass is even worse than Vermont. But we'll continue with the story here. And, of course, your calls and thoughts are welcome. 603-283-6160. And, by the way, I want to say thank you to Nicole Edge, who is a supporter of the Free Talk Live AMPS program. It is a Patreon. You can go to amps.freetalklive.com, get signed up there, and you can help us advertise, market, promote, and support what we do here on Free Talk Live.
Sounds like a Mark fan.
Nicole, I think that's actually her real last name. But anyway, she is gold level, which means she's doing at least $10 a month, sending it over to help us out, and we really appreciate it. And you get some cool benefits from that, too. So thank you, Nicole. Once again, it's amps.freetalklive.com. So, Bonnie, what else do we need to know about this story? What exactly are they proposing to do here?
Quote, we cannot allow the consumer electronics industry to prioritize proprietary and inevitably obsolete charging technology over consumer protection and environmental health, reads an excerpt from the letter.
As far as I know, there's two types of chargers out there, Apple and everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, there's like the USB, those circular ones, or not circular, they're ovals, but those
What's
ones,
that?
the
There are
ones that your
different
phone
flavors
uses.
of USB. There's mini USB, micro USB, and USB-C.
Is that USB-C?
Yeah, that's the newest one.
I don't like that one. Anyways.
The USB-C is nice because it is reversible.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things they solved with USB-C versus the previous ones, the micro and the mini.
Yeah, you
can
get it
only
the
put
right
it in-
direction.
yeah, you can only put it in one direction, whereas USB-C you can put it in over or under, and it'll go in both ways.
Yeah, I do like that.
Yep,
I did not know that,
Yep.
and I have USB-C.
So go on.
The senators did not specify the type of charging standard commerce officials should consider as part of the plan. Lawmakers cite money spent by...
That'll be up to whoever lobbies them hardest.
Yeah, whoever pays them off the most gets to impose their charger on everybody.
Right, and just think about how bad that is for... I mean, they're talking about this as though it's going to help consumers. But if they
In the
actually...
environment.
Yeah, that's the claim. If they actually... It's a lie, because, and here's why. If they actually do mandate this on people, everybody purchasing a new phone... if they don't have the thing that's mandated, right? So let's say they mandate Apple's format. Well, now every new Android phone is going to have to come out with the Apple connection format on it.
So if they're away their old chargers.
Right. So all of the old USB chargers that were in the USB-C or micro or whatever it was your phone used, those are all no good anymore. Just throw them all out.
Wow. That's probably why they're doing it. They probably got paid off by somebody who makes some sort of wombat charger that nobody has, and it's like, wow, I could sell billions of these bizarre things.
It's just like, am I the only one who doesn't think that the consumers wanted this ever? Like, I've never heard people saying, why can't there just be one charger because I can't afford all the chargers I have to buy all the time?
I mean, I've definitely seen people say, oh, this is inconvenient, right? Like, you have your phone, it's an iPhone. Over on the other side of the room, there's an iPhone charging cable hanging off of a USB charger. On your side of the room, there's a Android charging cable hanging off a USB charger. You would have to get up and walk all the way across the room in order to charge your phone, and that's inconvenient.
Getting up and walking, we need the government to do something about this.
I mean, that's the level of inconvenience we're talking about here. Or maybe it's, oh no, I'm at my friend's house, and my friend only has an Android phone. So I need to charge my phone. It's down to 2%. I'm at my friend's house, but he doesn't have the correct charging cable because he's only got an Android phone, and I don't have a charging cable in my purse because mine's at home, right? So that's an inconvenience. We need the government to solve it. I was referring to her.
Okay.
But so that's what there are definitely people who've been in situations like that. But how many of them said they need the government to invade
and
this
it's definitely
industry?
not a money thing. It's not like, I don't know, people are like, I can't afford to buy a new charger. I don't know. I mean, they usually come with your first phone anyway.
But
How helpless do they think we are?
They certainly do, but it is convenient, of course, to have a charger with you wherever you go, and
so then you spend $15 on another one.
yeah, and you could keep that with you in a backpack or a purse or in your car or something like that. But again, that's for people who plan. That's for people who are responsible and take care of their problems and come up with solutions instead of turning to the government and asking them to help them out.
Lawmakers cite money spent by consumers on various chargers for different products and waste created when obsolete chargers are tossed out as reasons for pushing to require a universal standard. Last week, the EU agreed to rules which will take effect by fall 2024, which would allow consumers to only use a USB Type-C cable to recharge small and medium-sized portable electronics. Do you like how they said allow consumers
Yeah, well, that's
to
typical
only use? That
with
means
the press. The press is constantly saying things like, oh, government is only asking you to pay taxes. They always love to just try to cover up what's really going on.
Yeah.
And it sounds to me like what's really going on in the EU is that Apple's going to be the one with their hand forced on this.
Yeah, people are, and the consumers are being forced to have to buy a new charger or being forced to use just do a certain thing. It's not they're being allowed to be only allowed to do something. They're being forced. It's just a weird roundabout way of saying that.
This will be their only option starting, what was it, later this year?
2024.
Oh, okay. Whew. We got 2 years now.
Well, the EU does.
Mm-hmm.
The rules cover smartphones, tablets, earbuds, headphones, and portable speakers, among others.
Right. What happens when the industry wants to move beyond USB-C? One of the reasons why USB has
one
changed.
of the things this will do is strangle innovation.
Correct. One of the reasons why USB, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Nobody, you're definitely a little more computer expert than I am, although we've both been in it for a long well, you're good at the programming. I'm pretty good at building computers.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not a hardware guy.
But the reason why these things have changed over time is, first of all, making connectors smaller is beneficial for devices, right? As device size getting smaller than having the connector be smaller, but they can't make it too small.
It can be beneficial, but there's a trade-off.
There's a trade-off. Yeah, it could break or whatever, so you can't make it too small. But also, data transfer rates have increased over time. So there are different USB standards that have come out. There's USB 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. I don't know if we've gone past 3 yet, but USB 3.0 allows for more data throughput to be transferred, as I understand it, over USB cables. And I don't know for sure, but I presume the connector types may factor into that. Do you know if the oldest, one of the older types, the USB micro, which one was first, mini or micro? It's always confusing to me.
Well, micro was the one you saw on cell phones. Minis you would see on like GPS units sometimes, kind of wombat devices.
So, can you transfer USB 3.0 over those older types of connectors, or do we need to have, USB-C to transfer? This is a question I don't have the answer to.
And I don't actually know. It's frequently the case that cables have to be upgraded with different
New
standards.
Yeah.
Cat 5 is not the same as Cat 6.
Right.
You can use a Cat 6 cable with a Cat 5 setup.
But they don't go as fast, or the Cat 5s don't go as fast as the Cat 6.
And when I say Cat 5 and Cat 6, I'm talking about the categories of
network cables.
Ethernet cables, or Ethernet, depending on how you like to.
But that's one reason why things have changed over the years is upgrades. And so if this law goes into place and USB-C is the one only connection option for devices from here on out, or at least until the European Union decides to allow another one, that's really going to stifle innovation.
And you know what already makes this completely irrelevant that I just thought of? Those little pads where you can charge any device if you just set it there. It's like it looks like a coaster, and you can set your phone on there, wirelessly charging any phone.
Well, I don't know if all phones have that option.
It's not like an option you turn on, it just does
Really?
it.
That's weird. All right, more coming up here in moments. You can join us here. Hour number 3 is on the way. It's Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live listen line, 641-793-0191.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. Parts of Western Europe have hit temperatures of 40 degrees Celsius or 100 Fahrenheit as the heatwave hitting the continent shows no sign of easing. In France, 15 regions reached a red weather alert that's been in place amid warnings of a heat apocalypse. From FSN's bureau in Paris, here's Ross Cullen.
The region around Bordeaux has been hit hardest, with the area of forest that's been burnt in wildfires now bigger in size than Paris. On Monday, animals in a zoo in the Bordeaux region were set to be moved to safety due to wildfires encroaching on the park. Temperatures in the French capital on Monday were scorching at 39 degrees Celsius, but there was no let-up as it's expected to be even hotter on Tuesday. Ross Cullen, Paris.
The trial has begun in the United States for the deadliest mass shooting to ever reach the courtroom. Nicholas Cruz pleaded guilty to murdering 17 people in the Parkland High School shooting of 2018 and could face the death penalty, as FSN's Gabrielle Fami reports.
It's been 4.5 years since Cruz returned to his former high school to open fire. That he has admitted. This 4-month trial will focus only on sentencing, life in prison without parole, or the death penalty. The jury has a task no jury in this country has ever faced before. No American mass shooter who killed this many people has ever made it to trial. Cruz fled the scene after the rampage before he was caught by police. The trial began Monday with opening statements. A death sentence would have to be a unanimous verdict, but the jury could issue a different sentence for each of the 17 victims. Gabrielle Fami, New York.
In Ukraine, the President Volodymyr Zelensky has suspended 2 of his senior officials, the head of the spy agency and the prosecutor general. More than 650 cases of treason have so far been brought against individuals accused of working with Russia. Business and US stocks fell on Monday on reports that Apple intends to slow both spending and hiring. Meanwhile, traders were gearing up for a busy week of corporate earnings. FSN's William Denslow reports from New York.
US stocks lost momentum during Monday's trading session, following a Bloomberg report suggesting Apple will slow spending on certain teams and ease hiring next year. After a promising start to the day, the Dow closed down 0.7%. While the S&P and Nasdaq both fell 0.8%. Apple closed down around 2%. Losses on Wall Street came despite the release of some better-than-expected earnings results from Goldman Sachs. The bank closed up 2.5% after posting strong earnings and revenue figures. It's set to be a busy week for company earnings, with the likes of Tesla, Netflix and Johnson & Johnson all slated to report quarterly numbers. William Denslow, New York.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today at the announcement by Microsoft founder Bill Gates that his ambition in life is now no longer to remain on the list of the world's wealthiest people. It's been over a decade now since he first pledged that he would give his riches away, but he's still the world's 4th wealthiest person, and over that decade, his personal fortune has more than doubled. Last week, he announced plans to make a $20 billion donation to his philanthropic fund, and he says the foundation is going to start spending his money more quickly, aiming to give away $9 billion each year by 2026. Stephanie Brobby is a former private wealth lawyer who created the Good Ancestor movement and advises people who, like Bill Gates, want to offload their cash.
They are extremely wealthy people who are concerned about spiraling inequality. They're concerned about the climate emergency that we're in and the fact that we have more food banks than McDonald's in the UK, despite being the 5th most advanced economy in the UK. So the people that I work with are extremely rich, but they feel deeply uncomfortable actually about the level of wealth that they have, about, in some cases, the way that wealth was created.
But she says lots more work needs to be done to encourage others who have been almost as lucky as Bill Gates to follow his path. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news again. Parts of Western Europe have hit temperatures of 40 degrees Celsius or 100 Fahrenheit as the heatwave hitting the continent shows no signs of easing. In the United States, the trial has begun of the 2018 Parkland High School shooting, the deadliest mass shooting to ever face trial. And in business, US stocks fell on Monday on reports that Apple intends to slow both spending and hiring. From Feature Story News, Nick Harper reporting.
Already struggling to get by on the basic necessities of day-to-day life, lunatics across the nation confirmed today that they are now barely able to afford the quickly rising price of car meat.
I've got 14 Barbara Streisands to feed and 3 more on the way. Day and night they shout, "We're hungry, Admiral. We want grade A Honda-loaf. We want Nissan truck."
I just want to know what Bruno Mars plans to do about this. He sits around all day eating Audi ribeye and limousine bouillabaisse while we scrape by with taxi shanks. Meanwhile, the men at arms are still overseas fighting the war on Wheel of Fortune.
For more on this story, check this week's Onion Review.
This is the Onion News Network. Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. We're kicking off the 3rd hour of the program. You can join us here. And you can bring up whatever's on your mind. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here tonight, it's Ian.
Nobody.
And Bonnie.
Coming up, if we get a chance, we'll talk about The Anarchists, the new HBO television series that started last weekend, the one prior to this one. And episode 2 came out yesterday. Bonnie, you and I have seen them both so far, so maybe we'll talk a little bit about that tonight. Again, 603-283-6160, but we go to Dave Ridley. He's on the line with us here, calling from New Hampshire. Go ahead, Dave.
Hey, folks. So the latest liberty activity in New Hampshire that has authoritarians crapping pyramids. And this is sort of, I don't know to what extent this is in response to the school shootings that have been going on. But the media coverage has certainly been related to that. So I guess in Keene, there is a gun range that is helping people build their own assault rifles.
Nice.
So I'm looking up the name of the range here.
I think there's only one gun range in Keene. It's relatively new. I believe it's the Cheshire County Sports or Gun or Shooting or whatever the Cheshire County Shooting organization is. They've got a range that's in Keene. It's relatively new. It's sort of on the outskirts.
Okay, so it's Ferry Brook range.
Oof. Unfortunately,
Ferry Brook.
Unfortunately, it's sounding like your signal is breaking up. Dave, are you still with us?
Okay, I'm moving around.
Okay, sounds clear now. Sounds clear.
Yep, sounds great.
Go ahead.
You said Ferry Brook Range, right? That's what I see.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
And they teamed up with another organization to do it, but of course the media is losing their minds over this. And some people who were members of the gun range have decided they don't want to be in part of that anymore.
God. Wow. Do these people know where they are? They're in New Hampshire.
I mean, because it's a different It's a different place. But speaking of New Hampshire, though, have you guys already talked about the New York Times article that I guess just came out about the Free State Project?
We haven't talked about it on the air.
No, Bonnie, you and I
read it to Ian.
Yeah, we talked about it personally on Sunday, I think it was.
Yeah, when we were driving.
And we met, went to another Free Stater event at the time, but
then yesterday we weren't on the show, so maybe they talked about it yesterday.
I don't know. Yeah, so what about it, Dave? What do you think about it?
Oh, who knows? Since I wasn't allowed to read it.
What do you mean?
You weren't allowed to read it? Who stopped you?
Since you never used the New York Times, you've already used your maximum number of views for this lifetime.
I got a tip for you, Dave. So here's a handy little website. I forget who I've got to give credit to for finding it, but it's pretty awesome. Archive.ph. Like, I think it's Philippines. I think PH is Philippines. But anyway, archive.ph. And what you do is you put the URL of the paywalled story into the submission box at the top. Odds are good somebody else has already put that same URL in there, and it'll just send you right to their sort of ripped version of it. If it hasn't already been ripped down, then it will go through a process that might take a minute or 2 or 3. It has to kind of ingest the story into their system, and then it makes a URL available at which you can easily share, and anybody can visit the thing and not have to deal with the paywall. It basically strips down the paywall and hosts it on their own website. Very, very handy site.
Disabling JavaScript will frequently do it for you too.
Is that archives plural or singular?
Singular. Archive.ph. And it's pretty effective at what it does. So, Bonnie, you and I read it. Do you want to summarize for our listeners and for Dave what the story was about?
They kept saying, oh, this is a failure of a movement because the Free State Project had gotten a pledge to move 20,000. They got 20,000 pledges of people to move here, and they only have 6,000, so it's a failure. But let's write a whole entire article about them because they're terrifying. Yeah.
It's kind of like the Tokyo Rose used to report Japanese victories that were closer and closer to Tokyo.
Wow.
In this case, Dave, it was obviously it was a hit piece. The New York Times, whenever they do a story about the Free State Project, it's always a hit piece. And this isn't the first time they've reported on us here in Keene in the past. But it's always good news because it means new people are going to find our migration.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, guy on the net actually. I saw him today. He said, "Oh, I just found out about the Free State Project from the New York Times, and you guys are blessed in your enemies." He said it's got to help you every time they do a hit piece on you. I said, yeah, that's why we troll them.
Absolutely. And I think it was the Free State Project account on Twitter made a good point. It also helps keep people away.
Yes.
Right? Because like the hardcore leftists or the statists who are seeing what's going on here, they don't want to have to deal with that stuff.
Yeah. And the thing is, as they destroy their own states, they start moving into other states with no idea what they did to destroy their last state, and they'll do it again,
Right. But if they know they're going to come up against too much opposition, and they know that this is a place that's going to be uncomfortable for them, they're not going to come. They're not coming here.
Yeah, the first time, as soon as somebody says, "Oh yeah, I'm thinking of moving to New Hampshire," the first thing I say is, "Well, there's people open carrying firearms all over the place. So if you're not comfortable with that, you might want to think again."
Exactly. Hey, Dave, did you hear any of this news about the secession polling?
I just sent an email to Alu Axelman over at the Foundation for New Hampshire Independence. I was asking him to let me know when the poll was released so I could send an email out about it to my news release.
Yeah, we definitely want to get the news out. But what we were sharing earlier tonight was the Texas numbers are out from that very same poll.
Not New Hampshire, though.
Yeah, New Hampshire's the only state that is currently still embargoed. Florida, Hawaii, Texas, Mississippi, the southern states, they're all out of the... so 7 of the 8 states that were surveyed are out. And in Texas, just a recap for you here, 66% of likely Texas voters want Texas to withdraw from the Union and become an independent country, according to that. And then also, one big takeaway, we didn't cover this earlier, is the big objection whenever you talk about secession is, well, they tried that. The Civil War, they're going to roll in tanks. The military is going to invade. Well, according to a question on this survey, the poll results drive another stake into the heart of the fearmongers who claim that Texit would mean a war on or economic sanctions. The 8 states were asked about how to respond if Texas, California, or Hawaii voted to become independent countries. Only 3 to 9% of any of the states that responded think a military attack should be considered for any of these 3 states.
Oh, groovy. They put my question in.
Yeah. So less than 10%, and in the case of Texas, it was an average was 7% in Texas. So 7% of Texanders, what do they call it?
Texans.
Texans, thank you. Of Texans believe that that military attack should be utilized if another state secedes.
Wow.
That's
great.
Hey, and with regard to the gun thing and people building their own guns in Keene, I wasn't super clear. I don't mean to be flippant about it. I'm not saying this is like a middle finger to the authoritarians. I shouldn't be putting it like that. This is a proposed solution, or part of the solution for school shootings is letting more average people have guns and be able to build them, so that they can protect themselves. And these shootings are happening in gun-free zones.
Yeah,
that's true.
I mean, you need good people with guns, and cops don't qualify on the first account, even if they do on the second.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate hearing from you. That's Dave Ridley from RidleyReport.com. Also, the remainder of the statistics here. So, again, 7% say military attacks should be utilized if Texas leaves the Union. 55% believe Texas should be allowed independence without any penalty. And the remaining 37% think that economic sanctions are the strongest penalty that should be considered. So, Americans are not going to support military violence against states that secede. So that's just off the table.
It doesn't necessarily mean the government won't do it, because, I mean, most of the wars have not been real popular, but
it will definitely drive their popularity down even lower than it currently is. I mean, already Congress is at 7%.
Well, that's the thing, is it may drive other people to want to say, okay, now I want out because I'm not going to war with Texas.
More coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com. There are basically 2 types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, Mark at freetalklive.com.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
to random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. Phones are open. You can join us here at 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Joining you tonight, you've got Ian.
Nobody.
And Bonnie.
And you can join us online. Just head over to freetalklive.com. You can download episodes of the show easily right there from the front page. You can also subscribe to our podcast. We have RSS feeds that are available to you. Just go to feeds.freetalklive.com, copy the one that you want. There's the main feed, which has everything that we offer. There's the digest-only feed. There's the episodes-only feed. You copy the one that you want. You put it into your favorite podcast client, or just use some of the links there to some of the more popular platforms where you can find us. You'll find all of those links over at feeds.freetalklive.com. Let's go to your phone calls and thoughts. Gigi is on the line in South Carolina. Gigi, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I definitely love the comment that Sarah from New Mexico made last night about the bullet train. I love that idea.
Well, our listeners weren't all tuned in.
I don't know what she said. What did Sarah say about the bullet train?
Oh, she said that it would be so wonderful to incorporate bullet trains in the United States for transportation purposes like they produce and promote throughout Europe and Japan. And I really appreciated her input with that comment.
Okay, but do you think that people should be forced to pay for them?
That's a good question. I didn't think about that, so let me be honest.
Yeah.
I would have no problem supporting that financially.
Sure.
Because
would you
I
be willing to pay
would.
my share?
It would
because
be beneficial to the community at large.
Yeah, but would you
So
be
I
okay
guess
with
my
your
answer would be
neighbors
yes.
having to pay for it? Would you be you personally wouldn't mind, but would you be okay with forcing your neighbors who may or may not want
I
it
guess
to pay?
a better way to put it is, would you be okay with throwing me in prison if I refuse to pay for it?
Oh, God, absolutely not.
Well, that's what taxation
great.
is.
Well, yeah.
So that puts taxation out of the question.
Absolutely not.
So you would agree then that this should not
and
be a government...
question that you just asked me is very legitimate.
Yeah, and so just to clarify, you would agree then this should not be a government project at all, that only the marketplace should be deciding where bullet trains
most
go?
Definitely. Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Well, then I would agree.
I love what the captain said about a real free market is a garage sale. I love garage sales.
Yeah, if you're allowed to have them legally.
I love secondhand and consignment shops.
Some places in the United States actually have garage sale licenses where you can't just have a garage sale.
God,
you have to ask permission.
Everywhere I've lived, it's like the HOA or the neighborhood or the town, I don't know, tells you what days you can have them, and that always pissed me off. I was always telling my parents, we should have a garage sale. They'd be like, we can't until next month.
Yeah, it sucks.
I never thought about those points. Those are very good issues you raised.
Gigi, anything else you want to share tonight?
That. I beg your pardon?
Is there anything else you want to share tonight?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
I am just, I don't know the word, not shocked, but utterly disgusted and thoroughly grossed out. Once again, protect and serve. Give me a break. The police with these new videotapes in Texas.
What did they do now?
Class action lawsuits coming against the principal, the school, all the cops.
It won't work, though. They all have immunity.
The police department. They
Gigi,
are coming.
Aren't you an attorney?
Endangering a minor. It's
Gigi, aren't you an attorney?
Not, pardon me, not in South Carolina.
Okay, but you are an attorney somewhere. I remember you calling about it before,
Yes,
right?
sir. Mm-hmm.
Aren't you aware of qualified immunity?
Oh, don't get me started on that. I have a big issue with that.
You should. Because it's going to get
the
those lawsuits thrown the
importance of
F
what
out of
you're
court. Those lawsuits are not going to go past the initial hearing.
Qualified immunity is way overused.
Yeah, and you better believe it's going to protect every single officer and every single bureaucrat from any kind of liability for what happened in Uvalde, Texas, unfortunately.
I appreciate that she's a lawyer and she has that opinion.
Thank you, Gigi, for the call. Appreciate it.
It would not protect them from criminal prosecution as accessories for defending the shooter against anyone who opposed him.
Yeah, but then again, the prosecutor isn't going to bring those charges, so they're protected from that too.
Maybe they should get rid of that prosecutor and find one who will. That's my suggestion.
That's possible.
I wonder if there are any good
lawyers
prosecutors.
will do anything if you're paying them.
What's that, Bunny?
I wonder if there are any good prosecutors out there. They all seem like scum to me.
There's no good prosecutors out there. I've never heard of it.
Nope.
You kind of got to be a sadist to be a prosecutor.
Yeah, basically they are doing the bidding of the police, and they constantly are prosecuting peaceful people who've never harmed anybody else, and it's sick. You have to be a sick puppy to do that job.
And they also completely believe that they are blameless because they didn't write the law. I remember one time we went to the, I forget what it's called off the top of my head, but one of the courts in New Hampshire, the one that we've been to several times with Frank, starts with a B, Brentwood. And Penguin, who's on the show, Chris, who's on Fridays, he said to the prosecutor that she was the C word.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing.
She was just like, because he said that it was because she prosecutes victimless people for victimless crimes, and she said, I don't write the crimes, and he was like, yeah, you just prosecute people for them.
Right, without her. I mean, it's bad enough the cops are arresting people, but without the prosecutors, nothing could go forward. The cops can't bring the cops bring the charges, but they can't bring the case.
And prosecutors, unlike cops are kind of required to follow orders. Of course.
They have discretion.
You know, Nazi prison guards were also required to follow orders, but that didn't save them at Nuremberg. But prosecutors legally and officially have absolute discretion not to pursue a case.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's why they're always like, look, we threw this one out, but we're just going to prosecute you for this one. The only reason they can do that is because they have discretion.
Yep. If they were decent human beings, they would only prosecute violent people. And that would be the end of the story. But they're not. They're looking to build a career on the backs of peaceful people. The more people they put behind bars, the better it looks for them for getting a potential raise or getting a new job or getting, a new position with more, bureaucrats underneath them or whatever.
They'll do that for just a couple $100,000 dirty fiat dollars a year.
Not even that, I don't think.
And that, I would say, makes them exactly what Chris called that lady. See you next Tuesday.
Yeah, I wonder what the average federal prosecutor gets paid. The big guy, like the head prosecutor, he's probably making six figures, maybe over 200 or something like that. But the average prosecutor, the little guys, I don't know.
I would think they'd make $100,000.
I would be surprised if there are many attorneys making less than six figures.
Yeah.
You might be right about that. The number here is 603-283-6160. You can join us, share your thoughts, bring up whatever's on your mind. There's a ton of stuff, like I said, in the news here. Of course, we haven't even covered the inflation numbers out there. I mean, those came out a few days ago, and I don't think they covered those this weekend. So over 9%, according to the government's own dishonest numbers, 9.1% in the last year. So we can talk about that too. Of course, you can bring up whatever's on your mind here. The number is 603-283-6160. Phones are open, as they always are here on Free Talk Live. So we got a lot to cover, including, like I said, the anarchists as well. And you can join us. Take control of the airwaves. This is Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Karl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. Parts of Western Europe have hit temperatures of 40 degrees Celsius or 100 Fahrenheit as the heatwave hitting the continent shows no sign of easing. In France, 15 regions reached a red weather alert that's been in place amid warnings of a heat apocalypse. From FSN's bureau in Paris, here's Ross Cullen.
The region around Bordeaux has been hit hardest, with the area of forest that's been burnt in wildfires now bigger in size than Paris. On Monday, animals in a zoo in the Bordeaux region were set to be moved to safety due to wildfires encroaching on the park. Temperatures in the French capital on Monday were scorching at 39 degrees Celsius, but there was no let-up as it's expected to be even hotter on Tuesday. Ross Cullen, Paris.
The trial has begun in the United States for the deadliest mass shooting to ever reach the courtroom. Nicholas Cruz pleaded guilty to murdering 17 people in the Parkland High School shooting of 2018 and could face the death penalty, as FSN's Gabrielle Fami reports.
It's been 4.5 years since Cruz returned to his former high school to open fire. That he has admitted. This 4-month trial will focus only on sentencing, life in prison without parole, or the death penalty. The jury has a task no jury in this country has ever faced before. No American mass shooter who killed this many people has ever made it to trial. Cruz fled the scene after the rampage before he was caught by police. The trial began Monday with opening statements. A death sentence would have to be a unanimous verdict, but the jury could issue a different sentence for each of the 17 victims. Gabrielle Fami, New York.
In Ukraine, the President Volodymyr Zelensky has suspended 2 of his senior officials, the head of the spy agency and the prosecutor general. More than 650 cases of treason have so far been brought against individuals accused of working with Russia. Business and US stocks fell on Monday on reports that Apple intends to slow both spending and hiring. Meanwhile, traders were gearing up for a busy week of corporate earnings. FSN's William Denslow reports from New York.
US stocks lost momentum during Monday's trading session, following a Bloomberg report suggesting Apple will slow spending on certain teams and ease hiring next year. After a promising start to the day, the Dow closed down 0.7%. While the S&P and Nasdaq both fell 0.8%, Apple closed down around 2%. Losses on Wall Street came despite the release of some better-than-expected earnings results from Goldman Sachs. The bank closed up 2.5% after posting strong earnings and revenue figures. It's set to be a busy week for company earnings, with the likes of Tesla, Netflix and Johnson & Johnson all slated to report quarterly numbers. William Denslow, New York.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. The phones are open, and you're invited here. You can join us at 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Tonight in the studio, it's Ian.
Nobody.
And Bonnie.
We're going to go back to your phone calls and thoughts, and if we get the chance, we'll talk about The Anarchists. That's the new HBO series that is now in week 2 out of 6. It happened last night, and Bonnie, you and I, we've seen the episodes thus far. We can comment on that. Of course, your calls come first, so let's talk to someone calling themselves Mr. Idaho Law, calling from Idaho. You're on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, I'm Mr. Idaho Law, and I am wishing that you did deal with the narratives that aren't really the modern, everyday shit that comes out of Washington.
Okay, I'm sorry, buddy, but you can't say that on the radio. This is a broadcast radio show. You can't say the S word. You can't say the F word. There are a few other words you can't say. But I'll give you...
What's not modern that we've been discussing tonight?
I want to get to what I don't know what he was going to say there, but I'm going to bring you back. I'll give you one more chance here. Okay, you're on broadcast radio. You can't say those things.
Okay, I heard you earlier in a program say it, so I was wondering.
No, sir, I did not say that word. What?
No, not you. The other program I was watching earlier.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Anyways, it's a simple issue of poisoning of America. I'm in Idaho. We make radioactive fertilizer, and we've been distributing it throughout the United States for 70 years. I am the one that the tobacco company asked for help regarding the lung cancer in the 80s of how the uranium got into cigarettes. Every cancer and toxic study that's done in the United States doesn't even look at or even recognize or share the issue of the uranium materials in the foods. Not at all.
Okay, so you're saying there's uranium in food?
In fertilizer.
That's right. Radioactive fertilizers, look it up, and if you go to the Ben Lomond testimonies and things like that in the 80s, I'm the one that exposed all that. It's been made here since 1942 under the Manhattan Project secrecy at J.R. Simplot Company in Idaho. It has now become global, but the tobacco companies did stop it being sold east of the Mississippi River for like 50 years.
Wow.
But that's changing now, okay? It is seriously gone global. I can tell you what companies in the Ukraine are selling. I can tell you what strategic countries are involved and have the same deposits.
What is the goal here? Why are they doing this, in your opinion?
Money.
Why would it be money to poison people?
There's a lot of money in fertilizers, okay? This is Idaho potatoes. This is big for
yeah,
Idaho.
but I mean, sure, there's a lot of money in fertilizer, but dead people don't eat, and and so the question is not why are they selling fertilizer, but why are they selling radioactive fertilizer?
Simple answer for that. It's called the wet process. It was the process that Simplot was allowed to do in 1941, meeting with the federal government, but they did not tell them what was in the Phosphoria Formation, that it was the largest uranium deposit in the United States, still is, because it's, they tied it with the word phosphorus, okay? Phosphorus soil. So J.R. Simplot wanted to help the war effort. And so that's where it got unleashed then. Then FMC, and you ought to look up these people, moved right.
I don't think that was an answer to the question.
Yeah, you didn't really. Why would they want to poison the soil? Hey, I'm not being a...
They, meaning the government or the J.R. Simplot country or the U.S. secrecy project of Manhattan?
Any of the above, if you happen to be aware of their motives.
Well, basically, like I said, I've been studying it. I'm a geologist as well as a publicist, and I've been studying this and sharing it and exposing it for many years. And if you look me up or anything about it, you can look up yourself, because other people try to take on the issue. Why they did it? It was all really about money, especially when FMC Corporation came involved. They were making probably $1 billion a week in the 1950s.
See, I can see why. I see that selling fertilizer makes money because actually one thing I've been reading in The Secret Life of Plants, which is a book that came out in 1973, it's amazing and I recommend it to everyone, is that in Russia, and scientists all over the world, but started in Russia, they discovered that they could make plants grow faster and stronger just with certain like frequency rays being shot at them. And that is being suppressed. Even back in the 1970s, it was being suppressed because of the fertilizer companies. Like, they would be obsolete if you didn't need that poison going into the soil to make plants grow faster and better. So I can see the money thing, but why does it have to be poison?
Well, why does it have to? Again, that was an issue to help the war effort. Okay, they learned back.
How does that help the war effort?
For it to be poison.
Are they at war with us?
Phosphorus would help plants grow quicker, especially in.
Wait, what does? Phosphate?
Phosphorus.
Okay.
These are phosphate fertilizers, okay? But they don't remove the uranium from it. Okay? The first moneymaker is phosphorus.
But just to clarify, are you saying you're not saying they're adding uranium to it? You're just saying that it's
in it
naturally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the call tonight, Mr. Idaho Law. I appreciate it. The number here is 603-283-6160. According to manicbotanics.com, in an article about the radioactive fertilizer hoax, he says there's some basis to the claim that inorganic fertilizers are radioactive, although it tends to be greatly overstated, misrepresented, and or completely misunderstood by those who typically assert it. He says that it's shown that some inorganic fertilizers have potentially somewhat higher radioactivity levels than organic fertilizers. For instance, agrochemical phosphate fertilizers are shown to possess higher levels of radium-226 than organic phosphate-containing manures. However, where organic phosphate rock fertilizers are used, which is a very common practice in organic farming, even higher levels of radioactivity are likely to be present in soils than where agrochemical phosphate fertilizers are used. He says, on the point of oversimplified, firstly, both organic and inorganic fertilizers are naturally radioactive. So he did admit to that, Mr. Idaho Law, that they're not adding uranium to these. They're just, that's the way they come out of the earth.
I don't want even a little bit radioactive food when there's
Bonnie.
other options.
Radioactivity is natural.
Yeah, everything's a little bit radioactive.
That's the point he's making here.
You don't have to use fertilizers if the government wasn't putting people who were researching plants down to profit the fertilizer companies.
Sure,
you can use a sound wave.
But here's the thing. Naturally occurring radioactive materials, aka norms, are found in every constituent of the environment. Air, water, soil, food, and in humans. There's nowhere on Earth that you cannot find natural radioactivity.
Well,
Our
we already
world
know.
is radioactive, and it has been since it was created. It's just the question is the radioactivity above a level at which it becomes actually dangerous to you?
Well, radioactive or not, adding extra things that are unnecessary to the food supply that the government wants to be in there, I'd rather just have that, not happen to all the food that I have the access to in the world.
Well, I mean, the problem is if we didn't use fertilizer, there would be a lot of people going hungry.
No, you guys aren't using your imaginations, because scientists who have been looking into sound waves... Scientists who have been looking into sound waves to make plants grow faster were getting great results, and it got, squashed because the government doesn't want people looking into better options. There are better options.
If you know anything about it, you're welcome to join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. I mean, what you're saying there, Bonnie, sounds kind of like the theory about the water engine, that it's been invented, that the people in the gas corporations managed to use the government to suppress the inventors who were inventing these things. It's like,
well, what's different with that and the hoverboards? They already invented hoverboards, or not hoverboards, flying cars, and the government literally just won't let it come out.
The government has definitely suppressed that. That much is true. Except one of them is more of a conspiracy theory, and the other one is pretty obvious. But if you want to weigh in here, the number is 603-283-6160.
Secret Life of Plants just follows scientists and their research and publicly posted things that they did. It's not
if you can
some
help
kind of
plants grow with
conspiracy.
sound waves, you would think the farmers would want to try it. More coming up. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Should you be able to earn an honest living free from senseless government interference? The Institute for Justice thinks so. That's why we've spent years defending hard-working men and women from pointless government regulations. Nationwide, IJ has created opportunity by reducing government power, but there is still more work to be done. Visit our website today at ij.org. Let IJ take care of the government so you can take care of your business.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live, and I'm not going to give you the number right now because if you're already on hold, we may not even be able to get to all of those calls. We had 4 people just roll right in the last segment. So we're going to do what we can to get to the phones, and don't forget to join us online at freetalklive.com. Let's go to Josh calling us from the road in Great Falls, Montana, listening to KINX FM 102.7. Welcome, Josh.
Well, good evening from Montana.
Hey, man. Thanks for being out there on the road. Really appreciate it. Go ahead.
Yes. In general, I'm in favor of state succession, but it needs some terms of treaty understood. For instance, I don't know how well your geography is, but we're a landlocked state here. We got lots of acreage, but I choose not to drive into Canada because I don't want to follow their restrictions across their boundaries. Let's say other states did something similar. We may never see a banana in Montana again if we were a lone state. We'd have all the beef and grain and peas and lentils and timber you could handle, but or if we were regional,
but yes, we have no bananas.
Regional, and went without California, which, to be honest, Northern California would be a great thing to have, but I just as soon chop off L.A., Sacramento, and everybody south.
Well, I'm just wondering, are you saying if you guys seceded and nobody would trade with you?
Nobody would trade with them.
Okay, well, I don't think that happened.
Option to, well, I would like to hope not, but I would want to have some sort of granted, we made treaties with the Indians, and how well did that turn out? But it needs to be a thought-through process.
Well,
and
usually as long as you're willing to pay for something, as long as you're willing to pay for something, you can usually, get it. The odds that the surrounding states are all of a sudden going to turn on you and cut you off from food, I think would be pretty problematic. I mean, you guys are pretty well armed there in Montana, aren't you?
Well, and that's the other thing. There's more cattle than people in this state. Even if we armed every single civilian, a couple good state militias could take us out. That'd be the end of it.
Yeah, well, a lot of states want cattle, so they'd probably be willing to trade with you for beef.
I'll definitely trade you some bananas for some beef when the time comes, if it's an issue. I'll be smuggling bananas to Montana if I have to.
I've also been reading. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Bad.
Is that a banana in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
It actually reminds me of a jail story, but that's for another time. Anyway, go ahead, Josh.
No, that's the end of it. I'm about to drive out of phone service.
Here's what I have to say to you, though, about it. I mean, it's like the federal government is pure evil, and it doesn't matter if it's the Republicans or the Democrats who are in charge. Wouldn't you rather go ahead and take the chance and have that freedom to be able to...
Hey, and that brings up one more topic, succession leadership. How is that decided for the state that chooses to leave?
I mean, there's already leadership within each state.
Thank you, Josh. Thanks for the call tonight. Yeah, what you're saying
I don't
there,
see why
Bonnie,
it'd be overturned.
Right. So New Hampshire is where we're at, by the way. Also a well-armed, small population state. I guess we got a few more people than Montana, but here in New Hampshire was already its own country. When the Constitution was written for New Hampshire, it wasn't a governor that was elected. It was the president of New Hampshire. So there's already a government gang in place in all 50 states, and they would just become the nation of Montana, the nation of New Hampshire, or if you want to change your name, then that's fine too. So those people are already there.
Then we got to figure out how to get rid of them.
Yeah, I've just noticed. I hear a lot of people whenever they talk about why secession can't happen here, they basically start saying that we would overturn the state government, and that's not necessarily true.
No.
I mean, why would we do that right away?
As nobody put it, we would like to figure out how to get rid of the state government at some point, but I'm much more okay with the New Hampshire state government than I am the federal government.
Oh, yeah.
Because it only takes an hour and a half or 2 hours to drive to the governor's house. Mm-hmm. We know where these people live, and he only has, and I'm not suggesting violence. I'm talking about peaceful protest, which is what we've done out in front of his house.
Yep.
But usually when he's walking around, like if he's going to his office in Concord at the state capitol, he has a driver who's a state police officer, and that's it. There's not like some huge ton of vehicles. There's not dozens of armed agents. Now, to be fair, they did send dozens of armed agents to his house when some of us were protesting out there in 2020 and I think later in 2021. But normally the guy's got one guard. That's it. So it's much more down to earth here. It's much more grassroots. It's much easier to actually talk to these people and reach state representatives. There's 400 of them. Anyway, if you want to learn more about New Hampshire, if you're a libertarian, you ought to go to 101reasonsfilm.com and learn about why you should migrate here and help us make this happen faster. Let's talk to Jack. He's on the line in Florida, listening to WNDB in Daytona Beach. Go ahead, Jack.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
What's on your mind?
Not a whole lot. I heard some interesting stuff earlier. I figured I'd chime in, first-time caller, about the Phoebus cartel. You mentioned just a little bit about some technologies with agriculture not being fully investigated and used to their potential with sound waves. One thing you can actually look up, I was kind of reading into it a little bit, but it's an oligopoly, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But basically,
yeah, that's ruled by the few.
Right, back in 1925, General Electric and Philips being the main proprietaries of this, basically where they intentionally diminished the efficiency of light bulbs from 2,500 hours down to about 1,200.
Really?
In order to make more money.
That is true.
What was the cartel called?
The Phoebus cartel.
Can you spell it?
Its name. Phoebus, P-H-O-E-B-U-S.
Okay, interesting.
Those things you can actually Google and look into.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all, guys. That's all I wanted to chime in with. But
well, okay, was there an overarching point, or are you just bringing up sort of the history of the light bulb cartel?
The light bulb, well, just for the matter that it was a conversation earlier, one of those things where technologies aren't really being investigated to their potential, and I guess this is the point, for the sake of money.
Well,
I agree.
Things.
The good news is light bulbs last a lot longer than that now. So
I just have a feeling that there's so many things we could invent and things we can't even imagine because we haven't been able to learn about them because of how held back we are because of the government. Like, the government gets involved in every single scientist's business. I mean, they put people in jail if they start discovering things.
Right, and every government regulation is an infringement upon market freedoms to be able to innovate and to experiment. Thank you, Jack. Anything else you want to share?
No, that's all, guys. That's all. I appreciate the time, and you guys have a great night.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you calling in tonight here. Let's go to Olivia in Arizona. You're on Free Talk Live, Olivia.
Hey, so the first time I ever heard about radioactive fertilizer was actually my government teacher in university. He was from, I think, Ohio, and he mentioned how he had lived next to a field, and one day he was playing with this little Geiger counter because he was a total nerd, and he went and held it over the field next door, over the fence, and the thing just started going crazy. So that's the first time I've ever heard someone mention that. And so it turns out that they use, the reason they took out like phosphates from laundry detergent was because it would make these huge algae blooms. So it is a fertilizer, and like the caller said, it naturally contains radon, uranium. Well, the problem is when you keep putting year after year after year, you just keep condensing this phosphorus containing this radioactivity on a field, you're going to start having it compound and cause problems because it's all in this one area just accumulating. The other interesting thing I wanted to share was when they pull the phosphorus out of the rock that it's in, it creates a waste product called phosphogypsum, and it just they have just these massive flats of phosphogypsum that it's even more radioactive than the regular phosphorus that they put on the field. And they didn't know what to do with this stuff because it's just piling up. So Trump authorized the roads to put it as road fill so that we were going to have radioactive highways, and Biden's EPA actually shut that down, but it was actually very dangerous. I mean, it's radioactive concentrate.
Well,
he wanted,
I think we
he wanted to do what with it? To put it on the highways?
Put it into roads, yeah.
I don't know. She was there, and then she was gone. Oh, now she's there. Go ahead.
I'm here. He wanted to fill in the roads with this phosphogypsum, which is even more concentrated with radium and thorium, uranium, that kind of thing.
It's worth pointing out, though, that a lot of this stuff is very, very low radiation, right?
But like what she pointed out with the food, it just keeps compounding in the same field every single year.
Thank you for the call tonight, Olivia. That said, though, this manicbotanics.com article says you only get about 40 milligrams per year from food.
Another thing I'd like to say is regenerative farming can also be a better way to farm without fertilizers, and it doesn't have to just be sound waves.
All right, tomorrow you can join us, freetalklive.com. In the meantime, see you then.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless free market non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state.